Gambler.
WPEN, Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station. Home of 76ers basketball and Flyers hockey.
Plug in.
97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia. The real and inside story on the Birds as they get ready for the NFL Wild Card. The John Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Hope you're ready to go on this Thursday morning and you're hanging out with us, John Kincade Show on The Fanatic. And as we get closer and closer to Monday night, and we got to wait till Monday night, we got to sit through the other 5 wild card games. And by the way, I got to tell you, I think 4 out of the 5 I really, really want to see. So I'm looking forward to that this weekend, and but it's the first weekend that it won't rain in forever. But we have a lot of people who are going to be heading down to Tampa, Florida, to go see the Eagles on Monday night. We got a lot of people who are going to find their way over to Westchester for the pregame show on Monday night to hang out with Bob and Pat and Andrew. I know I'm doing that. Got a group coming with me. Looking forward to that. I mean, at some point, we're going to get excited about this game. At some point, you will. It may be 7:45 on Monday night. I know that yesterday I heard Andrew talking about the fact is, does he have the butterflies in his stomach about a playoff game? And everybody knows that. The one thing I want to do is I want to appreciate the fact that at least I'm going to see it. Because I know this, if I see a season when the team doesn't make the playoffs, if it's not a rebuilding situation, I'm bummed. So I'm going to try to find a way to enjoy this. But yesterday I went down a rabbit hole, which I don't think is, was a good one, about Jalen Hurts. And looking at some of the breakdowns that have been done on Jalen Hurts and his mechanics, his quote-unquote regression in 2023. And I'm going to say it flat out because I don't think I had this opinion 2 days ago as far as strong as it is. His passing stats with these weapons is extremely disappointing. This 2023 season did not show me any growth. And I think of February 2023 when he dueled throw for throw, absolutely poised on the biggest stage, hanging out with Patrick Mahomes. And I got to tell you that it leaves me with a question that leaves me confounded as we head towards 2024. And I don't want to do it. And Pat was talking about it yesterday. He found himself glimpsing towards next year already, and we still got a playoff game to go down. But it leaves me with the question is, do you believe that the 2022 or the 2023 version of Jalen Hurts is the one that we're going to count on moving forward? And are we just going to be able to blame Brian Johnson for it and Nick Sirianni for it, and that it was all Shane Steichen? And that if you get a competent offensive coordinator in here, he goes back to being the guy he was in 2022. I'm really on the fence again as far as trying to figure out, will the real Jalen Hurts please stand up? If it's the 2022 version or the 2023 version. And Bob, like in everything in life, I have a feeling that the answer is going to fall somewhere in the middle. That maybe last year was the greatest we've ever seen and that we're ever going to see of Jalen Hurts. And that this year arguably might be the one that we look back on and say, yeah, this was probably his worst, his bump in the road.
Yeah, that's where I would go. I would fall somewhere in between. We mentioned it. I mean, we talked about it during the summer. Is that what you're going to expect from Jalen Hurts? A runner-up MVP season every year? No, probably not. That's hard for anybody. I mean, you get the Patrick Mahomes and limited players that throughout their career, they're one of the best in the league each and every year. I don't think he's as bad or his numbers are as bad as this season has shown. The disappointing thing is this. Last year, his numbers weren't fantastic.
No.
The one loss was his, let's use the leadership word. He did all the right things in order for this team to prosper and get to 14-3. And you're right. When it came to head-to-head in the Super Bowl, he was right there.
And he was relaxed and poised and confident.
And then, we said during the offseason, like, look, his numbers are going to go up. He might not have a better season, but his numbers should be better from 22 touchdowns and 3,500 yards or something like that. Those are all pedestrian numbers. But they didn't. They didn't really go up this year. And his turnovers went way up. So it's somewhere in between. I think he's a good NFL quarterback that'll last for years. I think his support group around him is very important, like most quarterbacks. There's only, a handful in our lifetime that no matter who you surround the quarterback with, that quarterback's going to be great. I don't think he's one of them.
2022's on the left, 2023's on the right. You're standing in the center. What are you moving closer to? The 2022 version of Hurts or the 2023?
I would go more towards 22. I think he's going to be an above-average quarterback. This year he was, it's winding down to be, average, kind of, sort of, yeah. I think he's going to be a very good. I think you're going to be satisfied to have Jalen Hurts as your quarterback for, the years coming up.
Pat, you're standing in the middle, 2022 version, 2023 version. Which one are you inching closer towards, or are you making a big move towards one of them being the Jalen Hurts we're going to see in the future?
I do think there's a gray area, but I would lean more towards last year's Jalen Hurts. I think the entire team has been done in by this coaching staff and coordinator group. So I think everyone has pretty much taken a step back. There isn't one person on this team that you go, oh, they're better this year than last year. Maybe A.J. Brown, but even then he's come back down to earth last couple of games. So when you factor that in, I'll go with, give these players an actual coaching staff that knows what they're doing, and you're probably going to get more 2022 Jalen Hurts.
But Pat, though, and you and I both are much more on the blame Brian Johnson train, I think, a little bit than Bob is.
Oh, I hit a pothole yesterday, and it was Brian Johnson's fault.
But, I mean, are we putting too much blame on someone else for Brian Johnson doesn't have him going out there throwing all those interceptions, doesn't have him fumbling the football on handoffs and things like that. Are we talking about it too much where we're blaming one man for actions that are completely in control of Jalen Hurts?
Some yes, some no. Like the fumbles, I'll give you. The interceptions, for me, a lot of those interceptions might be because Brian Johnson's calling such pedestrian plays that the defense can figure it out, and Jalen's just trying to make a play.
Like in the Jets game?
Make chicken salad out of chicken bleep. It's like he's just trying to, fit a ball in a tight window. But, this offense is so not only vanilla, it's predictable. And that's got to be really, really difficult on a quarterback to make plays when the other team, like when the fans are screaming, we know what's coming. You don't think in the plays you don't know what's coming, the other team doesn't? That's how bad this offense is right now and how predictable they are.
It's funny. Like Jalen Hurts didn't have a good year as far as reading, and how many times do we see the all-22 after games where guys are open and he's missing them, and guys are coming across the middle? And the Seattle play where he apparently ad-libbed and threw an interception. You had two guys wide open coming across the middle. You didn't see that a lot last year. The worry is this. Does he need perfection around him to be really good? Like last year, you had almost a perfect offense. And does he need that offensive coordinator to be with him? Patrick Mahomes had Eric Bieniemy, who is considered one of the best offensive coordinators in the league. Their offense has dipped since he left.
Significantly.
But you can also point to who are his wide receivers and those different type of things. Jalen Hurts probably has to prove to everybody that he's a good quarterback no matter the situations around him. We haven't seen that yet, obviously. I mean, he did it last year with two unbelievably good wide receivers, a really good running back that gained 1,300 yards, an offensive coordinator that was very, very good. I mean, everything was there for him to have a good season last year.
I watched a reel yesterday of the year that Cam Newton had all the rushing touchdowns. And I watched Cam Newton with all the rushing touchdowns because people are comparing Jalen Hurts' this year and his rushing touchdowns, that it's the greatest season ever for a quarterback. Go watch it, and you can find it. Cam Newton in his MVP year, he literally he's running it in from the 6. He's running it in from the 8. He's doing quarterback draws where he's dragging guys for 3 and 4 yards into the end zone or rushing from like 15 yards out, 10 yards out. Jalen Hurts is doing the tush push. And I mean, I'm even looking at some of these stats, and I honestly don't believe the stats. Now, you realize Jalen's a part of it. He's a part of being strong enough to be able to do that and carry that. But it really is, to me, it seems like a little bit of a fake number that you're on, that you're the tush push touchdowns, which are a lot, by the way, which is a big part of those rushing touchdowns that he's got on his resume. I mean, I saw Tom Brady almost never fail on a 4th and 1, never fail on a 3rd and 1. Tom Brady did more. I think Tom Brady did as many quarterback sneaks as any quarterback in the NFL. And he was just a big body, big frame, and he'd do it, and he'd get in there. I'm not so sure, too, that I'm looking at the stats that they aren't inflated by the tush push.
Oh, they absolutely are. I mean, most teams at 1st and goal, 2nd and goal inside the 5-yard line, they're handing the ball to the running back and seeing what happens. So, yeah.
Especially at the 1.
His 15, 16 touchdowns or whatever because they have a play that is unstoppable, and you have to commend the team for that. Yeah, sure it does. It gives him 5, 6, 7 more rushing touchdowns a year than a normal quarterback. So, yeah, I mean the numbers are inflated, but the numbers are the numbers, and we can splice them up any way we want. He does get into the end zone. Second most touchdowns produced by a quarterback this year. So that's a fact. How they do it, yeah, you can read into that too.
Do you put any credence in that, Pat, or am I just digging too deep? As far as not, I'm looking at the numbers. On that one. To me, the numbers look overinflated. They're just like they're inflated by that tush push.
Yeah, I mean, but I still think you're digging a little too deep.
You don't think could another quarterback do it?
I don't. The tush push, no.
Really?
No, we've seen other quarterbacks try and they failed.
No, I mean with all of the surrounding talent that he's got, you think it's part of him though? It's the drive.
Yeah, I think he's a large part of it. I'd put 50% him and 50% of that O line. So yes, if you put another quarterback behind this, if you put Marcus Mariota behind this group, is he scoring? Yeah, he's scoring, but he's not doing it at the 95% clip that Jalen Hurts is scoring.
Do you out there in the audience, do you believe he's closer to the 2022 version of the 2023 version? I'd love to hear from you if you want to engage on social media also. Whether it's it's not a trash Jalen Hurts session. It's more along the lines of I heard from a lot of people the last couple of days saying that even in the DM saying, boy, Brian Johnson's getting a lot of this blame. Brian Johnson doesn't draw up plays where you're throwing interceptions or you're coughing up the ball, unforced errors. And I think in fairness, that has to come in. And we'll have more on Brian Johnson in the course of this day. But to me, I think that has to come into it. I mean, there's a lot of sloppy play out of Jalen Hurts this year that we did not see last year.
Yeah, there's sloppiness everywhere. Offensive line to wide receivers and drops to quarterback play, all of it. I mean, all of it has to come under consideration when it's gone down as much as it have. I was watching, it might have been Baldinger yesterday, showing clips of the Eagles against Tampa Bay, their offensive line against Tampa Bay in the 3rd week of the season. My God, what a difference.
Completely
I mean, it's
different.
Unbelievable. And then Jalen Hurts on one run, Baldy said something like, remember when he used to be fast and elusive? That's a good point. It's like a throwaway little thing, but yeah, you watch him there. He's making cuts and beating guys. When was the last time we saw that? So I don't know if injury's in play. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's a lot of differences between the Eagles, obviously from last year, but even earlier this season than to right now.
Hey, our 6 a.m. sponsor is Bradford White Water Heaters, and Bradford White is here for the pro. And if you're around today at 8 o'clock, we'll tell you how you can win a trip with Philly Sports Trips to go, you and a friend, you and a spouse, whatever it is, head on down to the game on Monday night to see the Eagles and the Bucs. It is but if you want to share a thought, you can at 610-632-0975. Which Jalen Hurts is will the real Jalen Hurts please stand up? And I think Monday night is the perfect opportunity to do it. I've seen the majority of quarterbacks that want to be considered elite, when they get to the playoff stage, this is where they show out. And last year, Jalen Hurts made me a believer in that Super Bowl more than anything. I was so impressed. Where do you sit today? If you want to share a thought, you can do that with us. But coming up, Pat wants to take us down a memory lane that I don't understand why anybody would want to revisit it. But he didn't live it. John Kincade Show here on 97.5, The Fanatic. I love Landis Block and Concrete, and I've told you all about it, is the fact that we
TheFanatic.com.
If you missed it yesterday, Tim McManus dropped some bombs on the Eagles defense on the best show ever. I'll let you hear it coming up in just a few moments. But Pat wants to take a trip down memory lane. And it's funny when I think to myself, I look at Pat and I go, wait a minute. He really didn't experience this season the way the rest of us did that were around to know it. Pat, sometimes things are troubling when we look back at them.
This is Pat's point of view. Here's Pat.
I don't remember this season. I was alive for it, but
You were alive for it, yes.
Yeah, I was like 5, maybe 6. I'm not.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I'm not a football guy, but at 5 or 6, I'm not breaking down the trenches.
Bob was.
And, I know he was, and that's why he's in the big chair, and I'm here in my little chair. But can you guys just break down the Rich Kotite era, and really that one season, comparing it to this? And
1994.
What are the compare? Okay, so yeah, I was 5. What are the compare and contrasts with that and this? Because it just seems like, from a guy that's always heard about the Rich Kotite collapse,
7-2 collapse.
It sounds an awful lot like what's going on now.
Bob, I can't even.
What was the year? 94?
94. Yeah,
Wow.
I can't even begin to compare the two seasons, though. And I've had a few people bring this up on social media and everything. Pat, what I would tell you is this. Like having Herschel Walker as your running back. And having, Charlie Garner as another one. Having your wide receiver crew. I mean, I'm trying to think of who you had. Fred Barnett.
Calvin Williams.
Calvin Williams
was probably one of them.
Yeah,
right?
that was Calvin Williams, Fred Barnett. In fact, I mean, there's nothing to me that compares this team to 94. In 1994, the Eagles were not expected to be a Super Bowl team.
Okay, so it was a little bit of a surprise for you guys?
Yeah, in 1994, the Eagles weren't a team that was, one of the odds-on favorite to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC, tied with San Francisco. They weren't the defending NFC champions. To me, there's a big difference between that and that. I think they were 8-8 the year before.
So what? So that Kotite year, how were they winning games? Was it a situation where they were playing inferior opponents? Was it fool's gold? Or was it all of a sudden the wheels fell off the track or the train, or was it all of it?
Well, I remember even when they were 7-2, and I'm looking at it now. I'm looking at just pulling up the win-loss list. They had lost their 2 divisional games. They had lost in that 7-2. So they beat the Bears. They beat a mediocre Packers team. They went and thumped the 49ers in San Fran, and that's where everybody got attention. But
and that was like the 49ers golden era.
Yeah, they beat the Redskins twice to get to 7-2, but they weren't. They had lost to Dallas. They had lost to the Giants. And then everything just fell apart down the stretch. And I remember that year being extremely frustrating. But that was an 8-8 team the year before.
So
that ended up 7-9. That ended up right back where they were.
When they fell apart down the stretch, who were they falling apart to? Was it teams that were good or teams that were Giants and Cardinals level bad?
It really didn't matter the way it was, Bob. I mean, they lost to some bad teams down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie and sit here and act like I totally remember that season. I do remember the media questioning the intelligence, shall we say, of a Rich Kotite.
Oh, yeah.
He was supposed to be an offensive guru that they brought in, which they were sorely lacking under Buddy Ryan. So they bring Kotite in thinking it's going to be an offensive juggernaut. But you had an older, it was like everybody was kind of getting past their prime. Like the Eric Allens were older. The Randall Cunninghams were older. Your linebackers like Byron Evans, those guys were just in their 30s past their prime.
You were holding on.
Yeah, the biggest thing I do remember is the surprise of 7-2. And then the comeback, you didn't think they were going to lose 7 in a row, but yeah, just 7-2 was more surprising than the downfall was, is how I'll put it.
I would tell you, Pat, is one thing that I do see as a similarity, and it's something that Bob just touched on. They doubled down on being on old guys. They doubled down on let's squeeze one more season out of some guys where they were resisting trying to refresh the shelves and rebuild. And to me, I see some of the similarity to what Howie Roseman did last offseason.
You think that team kind of ran out of gas a little bit because of their age?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they weren't good enough.
But
They weren't good
and,
enough.
and how much of that was on the coach not having kind of a clue?
He was terrible. I mean, you think Brian Johnson, Pat, is taking some vitriol in this town? I mean, Rich Kotite. Bob, I think as far as head coaches, there's no Eagle coach who ever took more heat.
And that's kind of why I brought this topic up, because I mean, when you think of bad Eagles coaches, and I was 5 at the time, and I don't remember the season at all.
Come on,
But
man.
I would throw out Rich Kotite just based on the way that people talk about him.
Well, I would
It's
say
like Chip Kelly, Rich Kotite. I'm trying to think of anybody else that was like really, really bad that jump out, and that's probably
in the
probably
modern
it.
era, that's it.
Yeah, those are the two guys.
I'll tell you this. Rich Kotite did something that the hallowed Buddy Ryan never could do. He won a playoff game in his first year. Rich Kotite came in. They won that game at New Orleans, won a wild card game, then got thumped by the Cowboys the week after. So Buddy Ryan, who people honestly still worship like it's statues, to me makes Rich Kotite did something he never did. Won a playoff game. That's about it. He went 8-8 and 7-9 in his other two seasons.
It does sound a lot like this, though. I mean, you're talking about Rich Kotite, a guy who was brought in to be an offensive mind, and he wasn't really that. And we're sitting here and talking about Nick Sirianni, who's brought in to be an offensive mind, and the popular saying around Sirianni is, "What is it you do here?"
Yeah.
Talent. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it sounds, yes, talent wise, and you guys brought that up of there was a discrepancy between this team and that team, but coaching wise, it sounds awfully
familiar,
eerily similar to what you guys are discussing. I mean, if you guys just took away the names and brought up what you guys are saying, offensive mind and all that, and media questioned it, and they get off to a hot start, but then they collapse. I would assume you were talking about Sirianni.
Well, it certainly is. I can see some similarities. The thing is, Nick Sirianni's much more liked.
Liked by players, coaches, fans, what?
Much more liked by players, by media, I mean, Rich Kotite got so vilified in this town, and he earned a lot of it. He was sort of a belligerent guy. He'd get into it at press conferences.
Okay, yeah.
Jawing with people.
Likability thing goes a long way here.
Yeah, and I think that's a big difference. I think that's the big difference in there. But they also got old fast. As Bob was saying, that was an era, Bob, that Buddy squandered, and they squandered hiring Kotite.
Yeah, and when Cunningham got injured, first game of the season, what was it, 91, I think, in Green Bay, Bryce Pop hitting the knee. That was the year you thought, oh, man, this is going to be the year. And that was one of the most, it still ranks top 5 most disappointing things in sports in Philly when he got hurt that year.
That was first half, too, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken, I think that was
it was funny.
so
Don
bad.
and I, this was before we were married, but we were down in the Bahamas when it happened. So I don't think I was watching the game, but somehow got word, finally when I got to a TV, and that was devastating.
It was devastating because that is, as Pat, a few years earlier, this looked like the best chance the Eagles ever had to win a Super Bowl, including when they went to the Super Bowl in 81.
Yeah, I remember when Carson went down, the name Bryce Pop got brought up more than Mike Missinelli that day on the Fanatic. I mean, it was like every other caller was bringing him up, and host was bringing him up, because it just kind of like this Sirianni Kotite thing. It was eerily similar to what you guys witnessed 30 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like the roster of that team.
30 years.
Randall was 31 years old. And the guys that you kind of counted on, you had from the past. Eric Allen was 29, played all 16 games that year. William Fuller, one of their DNs, he was 32. Byron Evans was 30. You're talking about guys that you're just holding on a little bit to. So the talent level wasn't near.
Not even close to this team.
Yeah, probably not what this team has, obviously on the offensive side of the ball.
I mean, and even on the defensive side of the ball, like Eric Allen could start on any Eagles team of any era.
Yeah.
I mean, he was absolutely fantastic. Steady Eddie, Pat. Just imagine a guy in your secondary that Eric Allen, the greatest thing you could just say is that he was so steady. You didn't have the ups and downs with him. Where, I mean, he was fantastic. And I certainly
He's a finalist for the Hall of Fame.
Hopefully he finally gets in. Bob's going to do a speak for yourself in around an hour on the Coordinators Edition, which is honestly like watching Bob try to solve Rubik's Cubes. I mean, it is fun because it's much easier when Bob's doing Nick Sirianni. It's much easier watching him try to decipher what's being said. I can't wait to hear this. You're not going to want to miss it. Coming up in about an hour. Yesterday on the best show ever, Tim McManus was on, and and Bob, I gave the compliment the other day to Tim, is that I read some of his work from this week yesterday, and then I hear him on the best show ever. And when Tim is the reporter, he's the reporter. When Tim's asked an opinion, he unleashes. And he really does. They were asking him yesterday on the best show ever about, can this defense even be average to go and help them try to get a win against Tampa Bay?
I mean, that's the goal at this point, is to be mediocre and not be a liability. Even that seems like a bit of a reach, kind of striking when you go back and look at what transpired in week 3 when these two teams played against each other, with the Eagles winning 25-11 and the defense just really looking sharp, like holding the running game to around 40 yards, getting pressure on Baker Mayfield, 5 hits and a couple of sacks, looking really buttoned up. Leading to what was tied for the biggest point of victory, margin of victory by the Eagles all season. And then just to watch them now and see how they have spun out of control. I saw the stat just a little while ago that the rush defense has gone from averaging around 68 yards per game, and then that ballooning around 125 yards per game. And that just helps tell the tale of a defense that has been in a giant tailspin.
I wonder, Bob, when I hear Tim McManus talk about that, who's there every day, who's observing all this, who's watching them practice, whether were teams not rushing it, trying to run the football on the Eagles early on this season because of the success they had last year and because of the fact that maybe they respected what they thought was there? Because how do you go to double the yardage given up per game? That is odd. I
would assume teams would try to run the ball against the Eagles after you're coming off a 70-sack season. You know?
Yes, right.
I mean, that's what I would want to do. And Tim's right. That's 65 yards or whatever he meant. That was through 9 games. It wasn't like, a handful. It wasn't 5-6 games. 9 games, more than half the season. They were like number 1 in the league against the rush.
Yes.
And now they're just getting gut, in the words of Jonathan Gannon. In the words of, Jonathan Gannon.
I bet Jonathan Gannon is saying that, yes.
Yeah, they're getting cut. They're just, it's horrible. They're getting gutted. I heard Timmy when he was on yesterday live. I thought he made a great point. That would be such a huge step up just to get to mediocre. And it's true, because right now, it's why I'd say I have no confidence in them winning this game. They're not doing anything that even looks They don't look like an NFL football team. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. When teams do drop back to pass, there's not one. There's 2, 3 guys wide open. You are so out of position in every aspect, on the defensive side of the ball on so many plays. I don't have any confidence at all. We'll dive into what Matt Patricia says about Baker Mayfield coming up. Doesn't give me any confidence. I don't see it. Timmy's absolutely right. This defense has to take a huge step forward just to get to mediocre.
Well, he had a suggestion that maybe the way the defense could get better, and I want you to hear this, is maybe just make it simpler.
I feel like there's been too much added into what was already sort of a disorganized pot anyway on the defensive side. When you switch over to a new defensive play caller, obviously that's going to create a little bit of confusion as you get acclimated to what the new guy wants to do. And I think that you have seen, especially over the last couple weeks, that confusion has just led to a group that doesn't know where to be, when to be there, and isn't playing with any kind of decisiveness. I think it's imperative that Patricia really just kind of eases up on the complications. That makes it kind of basic. and gets back to some fundamental football so that the Eagles at least know what they're doing when they're out there. Like, that's the bar to clear at this point.
When I hear fundamental, and that's great, Tim McManus, our ESPN's own Tim McManus, and part of our family here at 97.5 The Fanatic from yesterday's best show ever. When I hear fundamentals, though, from Tim, Bob, and I understand maybe the scheme needs to get more fundamental, but this team, this defense is poor fundamentally. They tackle horrendously. Yeah. They take terrible angles. So to me, when I hear about it being, well, the scheme needs to be more, that way, I don't know that they have the skill set to do it. They tackle so poorly.
Well, you have to do something. I mean, if your talent isn't there to scheme differently, to call, fancy defenses, if your talent doesn't have the ability to do that, well, then, yeah, you have to get back to basics. And it might not look great, but you have to do something just to get somewhere close to normal, just to get somewhere close to another team's at 3rd and 6, and they don't even blink an eye that they're going to get that.
Yes.
Or they're going to gouge you on rollouts by a quarterback, which they'll move Baker Mayfield, and you're going to have a guy open short and a guy open deep because you have a defensive end trying to get out in coverage. I mean, they do. They have to get back to basics. They have to somehow – I would equate it to, like, if I'm coaching a basketball team and I try to put in a matchup zone, and the guys just aren't getting it, I'm just going to have to wipe it clean and say, all right, either we're going to go man-to-man or we're going to play a basic 2-3 zone, and you should know the basics of it. That's how far back to the drawing board I think Matt Patricia has to go right now.
We on the MMR last night, you heard the Flyers game. Flyers win last night in a shootout. And, Pat, I know we've talked about it before, but the Flyers have gotten a lot better in shootouts. Is there a common denominator to them being better in shootouts? A little better?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I mean, they have.
What are you looking for?
They seem like
they have players that can score.
But Ersan, to me,
he's good in shootouts.
He's really good in shootouts.
Yeah, all right.
He's really, really good. Carter's not. I mean, one guy isn't, one guy is in the shootout. Well, the numbers are bad, right? I mean.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the shootout numbers too much.
Yeah, if you look at the shootouts, it seems like he's, let's just put it that way, a little bit more. Maybe that's more to his skill set. But the Flyers reached the halfway point of the season last night. I'm not going to bring up the standings, but
that's where I thought you were going with this, and then I was going to run in and turn the mic off. No, I wouldn't.
Well,
please.
I mean, Jonesy said the other day I shouldn't look at them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was.
But that's not going to stop you.
No, it's not going to stop me. And I did look at them this morning, but we're not talking about them. But but they're halfway through the season.
Yeah, they've played well above anything that anyone's thought they were going to do.
And that to me is entertaining. Like that's so. This is a nice surprise. We've been getting kicked in the privates a lot in Philly with teams that are close to championships that are finding ways to fritter those opportunities away. And then we have a team that was supposed to be horrendous, terrible in a rebuild that is playing way above their heads, or they're playing what they maybe are. Maybe they do have a nice little foundation going here.
It is funny if you do look at it that way. No expectations and doing well, that's fun. High expectations and starting 10-1 but still getting questioned.
Oh yes, it's the truth.
It's funny, but that's fandom. That's sports. That's what's great about it. And I was back and forth totally with Sixers and Flyers last night. They both go to Flyers both go to overtime.
Yes.
Both ended about exactly the same time. So, everybody's remote was getting a workout. But, Flyers get down 2-0, and you get a feeling with this team, all right, they're not going to quit. They're not going to stop playing.
Yeah, they embody their coach right now.
They kind of do. Yeah, you're right, Pat.
Which is something they needed.
And last year, did you think they did? Because I didn't.
Not necessarily, but I think he was also trying to weed out some guys that didn't necessarily
weren't fitting.
Yeah, just bad apples in the locker room, and now he's got his team that is buying in a veteran leadership core. It's tough when you have vets on a team that aren't buying into you. It was Torts' downfall in Vancouver. He tried to get those older Sedin twins to buy into his system, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, I'm out of here in a year. I'm not changing my ways." And it's Torts' shortest stint in the NHL. So when you have that, it's tough to kind of get your message across. When you weed those guys out and then your veterans that you do have left over are buying into you, and then you have these younger guys come up, it's a lot easier. It makes your job a lot easier, I think.
Well, Bob talks about the workout, the remote getting a workout. I want to talk to him about life without Joel Embiid. And Pat has an interesting thought on it, too, that I will tell you flat out, I just don't agree with. John Kincade Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, and then
97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia. The real and inside story on the Birds as they get ready for the NFL Wild Card. The John Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic, and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Feels like we still got a week and a half to wait for this game to finally get here. I hate this Monday night stuff during the wild card round. I don't think it's fair either.
It's not fair.
It's totally ridiculous.
That
Why
there'd
can't
be-
you go 3-3? Just go 3 Saturday, 3 Sunday.
Like they did. There's a short week to me is ridiculous. That you're asking some team to work on a short week in the postseason.
Well,
It's a joke. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
I was just saying it's ridiculous in the sense, and Bob, I couldn't agree more with you, where you're having the team that wins go on a short week against
a team on a bye.
a team on a bye. Yeah, it's just it's ridiculous.
Now they're going to claim. I guess their answer to us, Pat, would be, well, it's
Win more games.
Win more games. Like it's part of the advantage of having home field and.
Well, you
It's
already have the advantage.
Yeah,
you have
that's-
2 advantages. You're off for a week and you're home. Like, you don't have to pile on it.
And I'd be saying this no matter who the team was, as long as it's not Dallas. But if this was Carolina getting this treatment, let's say, like I'd say it's BS too. It sucks. It's my favorite football team, but it's just what really blows is you sit there and think, okay, if they end up winning this game, how in the world do you beat San Fran on a short week? You have to travel out there
Cross country.
and they're on a bye. Like, we already saw what San Fran did when they had to travel across country. They were well rested. The Eagles were coming on a short week. Like, they got hammered.
I think
One of our YouTubers I thought had a great solution yesterday, and I'm sorry I don't remember who it was, but they said, look, do both conferences on the same day. That way, kind of nobody gets a bit. So if you do NFC on Saturday, 3 games, AFC on Sunday, 3 games, and then the next week you do the NFC on Saturday again and the AFC on Sunday again, and then when you get to the championship game, everybody has the same amount of rest. But
that's not a bad idea
no,
at
it's
all.
I hate the Monday night game. I can't stand. It has nothing to do with the Eagles this year. I couldn't stand it when it started for the playoffs. It's such a decided disadvantage for a team.
I wonder how much of this has to do with, if anything. I mean, it might be nothing, but how much of this has to do with the NFL wanting the number 1 seed to
advance.
To advance and to take away the option of an upset. Because that's one thing that I think a lot of sports fans like is the upset and seeing kind of the favorite choke in crunch time. But with this situation, it's hard to imagine any number 1 seed losing their first playoff game because
when you're setting it up like this.
When you're setting exactly.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to imagine that's gonna take place.
All right, let's see what Joe has to say. Joe, good morning. You're on the Fanatic. How are you, buddy?
Hi, good morning, guys. So listen, the Jalen Hurts, okay, the fact that I'm not saying he's getting a pass, but he's been horrible. And I don't want to hear about the injuries. We paid this guy $250 million. At some point, does he not have to win a game by himself like Carson Wentz did and Donovan McNabb? He's elite receivers. He doesn't have Greg Ward and Hightower and Reagan. When can we expect him to be
put a team on it? Put a team on his shoulders and win a game. You're not getting good audio.
I guess he missed the Buffalo game. I guess he just took that week off.
That Buffalo game was amazing.
I guess he missed the Indianapolis game last season.
Yeah, I mean, it's
last 2 minutes, like he took over.
I think I saw Wentz win a lot of games with absolute less talent. Far less talent.
Well, yeah.
Far less talent.
The last year that Wentz was the starter, they went to the playoffs and the Jadeveon Clowney hit.
That was wild.
They didn't have a wide receiver reach over 600 yards, I think.
Yeah, they had. Yeah, you're right.
Their leading receiver was Greg Ward.
That was an amazing year, and then he gets speared in the head by Jadeveon Clowney in that playoff game, and the rest is history. But to me, look, I don't agree. I don't believe Jalen Hurts has been horrible. I do believe that Jalen Hurts has taken there has been regression in Jalen Hurts this year.
Yeah, it's funny. You make the argument with Jalen Hurts, and I told you I have a buddy who's not the biggest Jalen Hurts fan. And you can say, oh, he doesn't do this. He hasn't won games at the end, all that. And all I kept going back to was, Okay, but in 30 games that he started, they were 26-4.
Amen.
You know, I mean, like, he's not hurting you. Maybe he's not doing as much as you want. I love that against Buffalo, they needed a touchdown to win, and they looked really good going down and doing it in overtime to get that win. And he was great. He ran the ball, he threw the ball, did everything, made the right decisions, all of that. It's there. It's not like we haven't seen it all. It's there. Your argument can be, do you see it enough? Like, could he have pulled out a game against the Jets or you know, some of the other losses this year? Yeah, that's something in the progression of Jalen Hurts that you need to see more of.
All right, now I got to tell you this, is that there's a topic that'll then spin into Pat's. But the idea is, Bob, is life without Joel Embiid to me is not it's not entertaining, except to watch guys like Tyrese Maxey do their thing. But it's not entertaining. It sort of sucks the life out of watching a Sixers game to me, watching them try to win without Joel Embiid. And it sounds rudimentary to say that. Duh, of course it does. But to me, it's sort of grating on my nerves a little bit. Watching this team without Embiid, I feel like I'm getting a preview of what's going to come in the spring.
What do you mean? That he's not going to play?
No, that he's going to be injured again. That it's like a PTSD as a fan. That okay, here we go. I'm seeing what hopefully I don't see in April and May. That, well, you know, if Embiid had only been healthy, it's that watching this team, it's not as entertaining to me trying to figure out. For a few games, I was like, oh, good, I love watching what Nick Nurse is trying to do. And I love watching how he does it. And I'll tell you, they hang tough. They hang tough.
Of course, it's saying go to any team in any sport that's a good team and take away their best player.
Yep.
Is it fun to watch? No. I mean, you know, Tyrese Maxey is fun to watch.
He is.
Some of the shot selection last night had me cringing a little bit. Tobias Harris stepped up nicely last night when you need points, and we talked about that yesterday, that's what you look for. Nick Nurse made another change to the starting lineup. Yeah, Joel was out, but he put Melton back in the starting lineup and took Oubre out. I think that's directly to he needed some defense out there without Embiid in the lineup. And you get that with Melton a lot more than you get it with Oubre. So I think that's why I started. When all is healthy, when everybody's ready to go, and hopefully that's Friday night now that Melton's back and Batum is back, I'm anxious to see what he puts out there. Is it going to be DeAnthony Melton coming off the bench, or is it going to be him starting and Oubre coming off the bench? I think he's going to go back to Oubre starting because I think he wants to take more of a look at that with Joel Embiid in the lineup.
Can we get a backup center? With some of the resources that we got.
Connor asked me about that last night. I came on his show he asked me to come on Sixers Talk last night.
Doing a good job.
Yeah, he is. Is that how big of a priority is it? I got to tell you, to me, it's not much.
It really isn't.
Well, think about it. He's playing 38 minutes, 36 minutes a game now. That's 12 minutes. So that's 12 minutes a night. Now he's going to miss, 10, 15 games, probably 15 games. Is a backup center that important for 12 minutes a night, which is going to probably shrink down to 8 minutes a night come playoff time? I don't know if I'm wasting resources on a backup center. I would take more of a look at Mo Bamba. I really would. I would take more of a look at him. If you're not satisfied with Paul Reed's 12, 15 minutes a night, all right, I would audition the guys that you have.
Here's the argument I got yesterday. One of my buddies, I was just talking about that. I said, God, I wish they had like a guy like a Drummond.
Yeah, everybody wants that back.
That you could have something like that as a backup. And he goes, what are you worried about? He goes, if Joel, and I said, I'm worried about April and May. I'm worried about that. And he goes, if Joel Embiid's not there in April and May, they're not winning anyway.
Right.
He goes, so why are you worried about that?
He's exactly right. I mean,
stop. I mean,
stop.
No, I know. I mean,
it's exactly right. You think you plug Andre Drummond in to be your starting center? This team's going anywhere?
No.
I love Andre Drummond, and I love him as a backup, but he might be the best backup the Sixers had to Joel Embiid, since Embiid has been here. But that being a need for those limited minutes, and now that he's missed games, he's probably going to play a boatload of games, barring injury, to finish out this season. I just don't see backup center being one of my top couple of needs right now.
Okay, now, Pat, you say that this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's get crazy.
I want your head checked.
No.
I mean, why is it a good thing?
I'm not saying that this is a situation where you're rushing to the TV to watch a Joel Embiid
Sure,
Sixers
I get
game.
that. Right.
But I think in the long run, when he's out, I do think it's a good thing because we are reaching, mid-January at this point, and the trade deadline is a month away?
Yeah, a month away.
6 weeks away or whatever. And there was 2 guys last night that did not play. Do you know who they were?
House didn't play.
Yep.
And Furkan.
And other than that, everybody got run. And not only did everybody get run, but only KJ Martin was under 10 minutes.
Okay, I see where you're going.
So I think that Nick Nurse, and this is what I love about Nick Nurse. This is something that Doc would not do. Doc would have Joel Embiid less games and still try to compete and win as if Joel Embiid was there. And he would still have his short bench, and he wouldn't give run to anybody else. And Nick Nurse goes, yeah, I'm going to try to win, but I'm also going to use this opportunity to evaluate and check other guys out. So, for example, Mo Bamba got 14 minutes last night. If Joel Embiid is playing, Mo Bamba's probably not even sniffing the floor. But he used the opportunity to get some Mo Bamba some run, so you get a chance to look at him. Kelly Oubre gets 32 minutes. Jaden Springer got 13 minutes. Probably only gets like 5 if Joel Embiid's playing. Like, you were able to get some of these pieces around you more playing time, so that when the trade deadline does come around, you have a better idea of who you're keeping and who you're not. Because a lot of the guys that they did get back in the James Harden trade are expiring contracts. And it's like, well, do you keep Robert Covington, who was back in Philly because he's dealing with an injury? Do you keep a Morris? Do you keep a KJ Martin? Like, what do you do with those guys? Do you look to trade those guys and package them with assets? So I like the fact that we all know Joel Embiid is going to miss time in the regular season. And while it's frustrating to lose against the Atlanta Hawks, I think in the long run, this team has proven it doesn't matter if they're the number 1 seed or the number 4 seed. Getting out of the second round has just become, the mountain that they can't climb. So it doesn't really matter where the seeding is for them. So you might as well just get some evaluation for some of these guys that normally you wouldn't be able to get a chance to look at.
Another thing that backs up your point, Pat, is maybe more teams will see what the Sixers got too.
Yeah, in the case of a Springer, sure, you want to try to showcase a little bit. Martin, you want to showcase a little bit. Those are guys that don't have NBA, too many games under their belt. A Morris, if you decide to do that or whatever, that's going to be a throw-in. But, if you want other teams to see him, Springer's got legs. Like, he moves. He jumps.
He's a spark plug out there.
Yeah, he's sneaky. The one thing I always bring up that was taught to me is, what is his NBA skill set? And that might be the one thing that draws him back. Like, he's not a shooter. A scorer, not really. Like, he has bounce. We all know that.
He kind of reminds me of TJ, like early in his career. Like, TJ was just an energy guy that would come out and give you good defense, and his shot was meh. But that was a different team because they were willing to play TJ big minutes.
Yeah, you're right.
This team can't do that.
Meh? How do you spell that?
M-E-H.
M-E-H?
Yeah.
Meh. Well, that looked like
but I mean, I like what I see from Springer when he gets out there, because he does give him. He reminds me also of like Paul Reed a couple of years ago, when Paul Reed would get in and he would give you 4 fouls in about 3 minutes, but he'd also give you like 10 points and 8 boards in the same amount of time, because he was just such an energy guy, and I see that from Springer.
7 a.m. hour brought to you by the all-new BetParks app. Sportsbook and casino in one sleek, easy-to-use app in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So Sixers lose last night. It's not a big deal losing that game to Atlanta. I mean, I'm not worried about that one. But
no, I'm so stupidly competitive. Like, I do. I get pissed off at stupid plays down the stretch, shot selection, lack of defense. Like, I don't know. I hate the way I watch games.
So it did bother
sometimes.
you then?
Like individual plays bother me. In the grand scheme of things, you look at it, all right, at Atlanta without Embiid, no. Did you have a chance to win? Yeah. And could you have? Should you have? You had like a 5-6 point lead or something. I think it was 30-24 or something like that, 130-124, whatever. Kind of late in the game, and you gave up just wide open. Their zone last night was horrible. Just little things. And you know what else I find, and I don't like about myself? I can't stand watching Trae Young play basketball.
You're just not a fan of Trae Young.
I'm not. I don't. And I didn't like a call last night towards the end. Like, you can't foul out a Tyrese Maxey on on a parallel move to the basket where he has his arms raised in the air and they're calling
Ticky-tack.
body. Right after, at regulation, he got slapped on the arm. He should have been going to the line with pretty much no time left to win the game, and they didn't make that call. So
What's it about Trae Young though? Is it the
I don't know.
constant badgering for getting calls?
yeah,
'Cause
and
that
so-
bothers the hands in the air.
yeah, but
like-
it's immature by me, and I really don't like myself for allowing myself to get there. I'm serious. I should appreciate. I love his floater. The way he puts guys. Just on edge with that. He gets defenders on his hips so well, and he knows when to either throw up his runner or to throw an alley oop. And they didn't have Capella last night, so his main alley oop guy wasn't there. But I don't know. There's just something about his game. I don't like the lean in stuff, and I know they've kind of taken that away a little bit. But he did it last night to foul out Maxey.
There was a guy that I used to work with, and he was a forward-thinking guy.
He was forward thinking.
And just a really good sports guy. And he would constantly tell me, Pat, Trae Young plays with no honor.
I remember that.
I remember
guy.
him. He was a really good dude.
miss him every day.
I
But
was texting with him yesterday, as a matter of fact.
he would say Trae Young plays with no honor, and it kind of speaks to what you're talking about.
Well,
yeah, and he's the kind of guy that I look at, and I do. I try to overcome the immaturity of, oh, that stinks, and I try to look a little bit deeper. So last night I was saying, like, would you stop in my mind? Stop hating on a guy. So I tried to think, okay, if he was on your team, would you enjoy it?
you wouldn't though. You don't like his style of play. So it wouldn't
but
fit
if he's
with
getting
you.
foul calls on things that shouldn't be called, and if he's, hitting floaters and throwing alley-oops. But he does. I do look at, as you guys know, Pat just learned it today. I look at every box score every day before we start work. His shooting lines are always horrible. He's very much a volume shooting scorer.
Trae Young has led to nothing, is the way I look at it. His career has led to nothing down there. He was the guy they decided. They traded. They had Luka Doncic they could have been building around. And they decided, no, we want a guy like Trae Young. We'll build around Trae Young. It's led to nothing.
Yeah, that ended up getting them Trae and Amari Spellman, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and in the end, because Dallas gave up a first-round pick.
It doesn't. It was a.
Well, it did amount to an Eastern Conference Finals appearance.
It did. It did, but
and
still,
Doncic,
though.
by the way, hasn't. What's he amounted to? Like, he's incredible, by the way, but I'm saying team-wise.
Let's put it this way. I believe, Pat, if every general manager was in a room, they would take Doncic.
I 1,000% agree with you, and the one that doesn't is probably on meth. They're boboth very good players. Doncic is just better.
Pat's analysis.
Hasn't won anything.
Guy's got to be on
Yeah,
meth.
but neither of them have done. Has Doncic got to Western Conference Finals?
No, I do not believe so.
I don't think so either.
No.
Hey, listen to our show tomorrow morning. It's going to be your chance to win a trip for two Monday night in Tampa that includes air, hotel, a VIP tailgate party featuring Hollis Thomas's 50th birthday, thanks to our friends at Philly Sports Trips. And if you're already going down to the game or you want to get yourself down there, go to phillysportstrips.com, reserve your spot either in the tailgate-only package, which features Hollis and his 50th birthday, or you can add on hotel and game tickets to it. Tomorrow, you are going to have to be here at 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, and 9:30. And then, after that, those four, you'll have a chance to qualify every hour by being the lucky caller. And we will delay the call because Brendan Gunn is very, very smart to make sure our YouTubers aren't at a disadvantage. And then we will take those four people and they will have an opportunity to identify a mystery that Pat Egan will provide tomorrow. We will not give too much away, but you got to be here tomorrow morning. Your chance to qualify every single hour. We're going to have four people then that will then have an opportunity to go to Tampa for the game. It is going to be fun. Imagine you're one of those qualifiers. You qualify at 6:30 or 7:30 and you realize, okay, I got a chance to just be heading to the airport to go on down and see this team.
That's a good way to start the weekend.
Yeah,
Hey, what are you doing this weekend? I don't know. And then all of a sudden, an hour later, you're like, oh, I'm going down to Tampa.
I think I know.
Yeah.
So I have to jump in. I'm not going to hit the breaking news sounder because I think when I hit that, people think it's Philly sports related. But
Right.
Adam Schefter reporting Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots are expected to part ways today.
Yeah, saw that.
Oh, wait a
So
minute.
Mike Vrabel head to New England because
Yeah, it'll
there's
be.
a replacement.
Well, I got to put it this way, too, is that in a 24-hour period, Nick Saban,
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, But I do believe that Bill Belichick will coach again. I don't believe the other two will. I know Saban's not going to. Saban is not going to do that, and I do believe there is a chance, and again, not reporting anything, there's a chance that he could end up on the desk at College Game Day with ESPN and maybe in like Lee Corso's spot. That is just me speculating that maybe he could end up in Lee Corso's spot, and maybe he knows that.
Any viable sports station would go after Nick Saban,
and he's good on TV too. He's fun.
Is he? I
is.
don't have that feeling.
Really?
Yeah, fun.
Oh yes, he is fun. The thing is, he is.
I haven't seen it. I'll say that.
Well,
or maybe he has a sense of humor that I just don't get.
He does. He is. He will. And his analysis is excellent.
Oh, I'm sure. I would take his analysis every day of the week. Sure.
So we'll track that one. But Pete Carroll. The weird thing is with Pete Carroll, you're the coach of the Seahawks that long, and you sort of get blindsided about being fired. That's bad form to me. That's bad form. You go to Pete Carroll and you talk to him and you don't like it.
I didn't see it. Did it come out that he didn't know about it?
It sort of caught him by surprise. He didn't want to go. It's not like Nick Saban told them. He said, "I'm leaving. I'm done." And reportedly, his bosses even knew before the college football playoff. They knew that this is sort of how it was all going to come down. But he didn't want anything to take away from his players. He didn't want anything to take away from their accomplishments, their things, to make the story about him. He just wants to go out the door and go sit at the lake and fish and boat and hang out with his grandchildren. But Pete Carroll didn't want to go. And look, they have a right to hire whoever they want or, make a coaching change, whatever they want. But I would think with a guy like Pete Carroll, you'd give him a little more.
Like I said, I didn't see that. So it surprises me from what I saw that he's going to take an advisory position.
Yeah,
and he's excited about it. If he was blindsided, that surprises me.
Yeah, it's he's going to go up to the upstairs and so because he's not going to coach again. He's not going to go anywhere else and try to recreate the wheel. But boy, that's some legendary coaches making their move, and it probably does take Vrabel off the board. Pat, as you report there, as you talk about that, it probably does take it off the board.
Pat?
No, I mean, it does take him off.
Breaking news, Pat Egan.
I'm saying the report that Pat was talking about. I think that it's
Egan bomb.
It probably does take him off the board. I don't think people are gonna want to. I think Vrabel would have the inside track, and that would probably be something. You never know. Maybe and Belichick, Chargers. Does he go to the Chargers?
I think that's Harbaugh if he wants it.
Yeah, but if Belichick is free and he's one of your choices, you better move fast because somebody's going to get Bill Belichick.
Yeah, if he wants to coach. I mean, he's what's he? 72 years old now.
Yeah, he's going to be 70. I think 72. Yes.
I mean, that's not young.
No, and it wouldn't be. I wouldn't think it would be a long-term arrangement. It'd be something where you're looking for Belichick to come in and fix your organization. I think of a guy like Josh Harris, Bob, the idea that, make a splash, new ownership, new ownership.
God, yeah.
Bring in a guy like
I'm
Belichick.
Sure Josh Harris has already made that call.
He's probably getting in on it there.
Absolutely.
Hey, if you want to join us, you can at 610-632-0975. Those are some coaching legends out there. And you have to wonder, for those of you who are speculating that maybe a Monday night loss would lead to a coaching change, would you be interested? I would not be interested in hooking a wagon to Bill Belichick, but Jeffrey Lurie and his ties to the Patriots organization in that area is known. You never know what could come there. John Kincade Show here on 97.5, The Fanatic. Every team has got an elite performer that they lean on, that they rely on. Well, in our home,
I'm fine. No. Put that aside, all right? Go to BlueChew.com today, sign up, and when you do, don't forget to use the promo code FANATIC.
Every storyline, every angle on the Eagles is here all week as they prepare for the NFL Wild Card. This is the John Kincade Show. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Bob Cooney is sort of like studied for the SAT. He's doing the Speak for Yourself Coordinators Edition coming up in just a few moments. Can't wait to hear how he deciphers what we actually heard yesterday, because there's some questions I've got as to how that actually happens. That's coming up here in just a moment. If you missed it yesterday with Andrew Salchunas in Middays, Jeff McClain had some things that he was sharing, and honestly, it made me feel much worse going into the weekend, some of it. We'll hear some of those things that sort of set me off a little bit later. But for now, I want to know, what's the status of A.J. Brown? Because if you don't win, if you don't have A.J. Brown on Monday night, I think your chances of winning significantly go down. So that's what Jeff talked about with Andrew.
The last I heard, MRI, no structural damage. He's got I don't know the exact grade of the sprain on his knee, but that's essentially what it is. You just got to see how it plays out. The doctors are going to have an influence over whether he plays or not, and the extra day of rest certainly can help. He was walking around the Novichok complex without any assistance or no crutches and not really walking with a limp, last I heard. So those are all good signs, but that doesn't mean that he's automatically going to be able to play. So I would lean probably more on the side of playing versus not, but it's still very early in the week.
It is early in the week. Bob, you're around a lot of athletes that with knee injuries, I guess organizations have to be very careful about them.
I was a little surprised. I thought when it happened, and you see what happened there, I thought maybe it would be a bruise or something. So there's a sprain there, which is good, no damage at all. Yeah, I would assume he's going to be a full go come Monday, and it's great having that extra day of rest. All of that. If Jeff didn't mention swelling or anything like that, so I anticipate that he's a go, and hopefully Devontae Smith is a full-fledged go also.
Both of them sort of limping into the postseason. Not what you want, not what you
tells you to run the football, expected. Doesn't it, John?
Yeah, it does. And I'll tell you, the last time they played, a little bit about how that all shook out coming up. But he also talked about, I got to tell you, hearing some of Dallas Goedert's explanations leave me a little bit shaking my head. And this is one of the things that sort of, got me a little concerned yesterday. Listen in.
Dallas Goedert even kind of addressed it after the game when he said that he felt that maybe when the Eagles clinched the playoff and they got through that rough stretch, that they went on cruise control, thinking that those final games against the Seahawks and Giants and Cardinals, they could just step out on the field and win them.
That's bad. That's bad to hear. And I know Jeff wouldn't say that if not, as far as, Dallas Goedert's commentary and everything. It seems like Jeff almost believes it. Like that's sort of like that what he observed.
Yeah. We've all seen all sports. We've seen guys that, don't seem to give maximum effort sometime and through 162 or 82 or 17. Yeah, you understand it a little bit. But, God, football, going on cruise control when guys are hitting like that. Like basketball, okay, you know what? You didn't cover a guy, going down the lane as well as you should have. Baseball, you didn't run after a ball in the gap as hard as you should have or run out a ground ball. But those sports, hockey and football, man, if you go to cruise control, to me, you're like
one step.
You're like a pylon just waiting to get hit by a car. I mean, that's just, wow.
Yeah,
that's
I don't
all
like
I
that
can
answer.
say is wow, yeah.
But I do like the fact that Dallas Goedert, and I admire it, that Dallas Goedert gives you a real answer. Like, there's a lot of guys who do the coach speak and everything like that, and you decipher some of that for us every single week. But to me, that's Dallas Goedert being honest. Some guys sort of took the foot off the gas, and that ends up having a chance to haunt you. Be sure to be listening to Andrew Salchunas every day in middays, just as you heard, the best show ever yesterday, having a opportunity just to bring you some of the best insiders to give you the information you need heading into this big matchup on Monday night. Bob tries to tell us what the coordinators had to say, and this one, well, this is an easy duty.
And now it's time for Bob Cooney's Speak for Yourself. Here's Bob.
Good luck, Bob.
Duty being the key word here, John, I think
it was duty.
sometimes. But we'll start with Brian Johnson, your offensive coordinator. And he was asked about over this year, coverages on defense have been different in keeping the balls in front of him. And what's it been like for him with that?
I think, obviously, I think we go back and forth. If you kind of just look at how it's kind of progressed over the course of the 3 years, it's, defense is trying to limit big plays. I think if you look at throughout the course of the NFL, you're seeing probably a lot more shell coverage this year than you have in past years. And, I think one of the things that it's making teams have to do is try to go on these long drives to go down the score. There'll be times where you get a lot of single high press man and the ball's up and you're getting some shots, but that hasn't been the case this year, so we've had to find some different ways to generate some of that stuff.
But did you? That's great. That's a great explanation. A lot of teams are going to the thinking of keep the ball in front of you, don't give up long plays. And I cut out some of you say he did bring up the explosive plays besides talking about, trying to get big plays. It's such a mentality down there, I think, offensively, that it's kind of hindered them a little bit. And, we talked about the play against Seattle where Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown went on their own and tried to make a big play. We see how many times they try to throw the long ball downfield as opposed to, get the quick hitters, and I'm not talking bubble screens, get the slants, do that more. You talk about it, you see it, you say that there's a lot of that going on, but yet you're not really doing anything to go against it. So maybe lesson learned. Maybe
you think so?
Maybe him talking about it. I don't know. I have no idea with this team now.
It's weird. They played 17 games. And he never does that.
Yeah, so he was asked about it. He said, okay, teams are taking away the long ball. What exactly it is that you want to try to do this week against Tampa Bay?
You have to go into some catch and runs and try to find some isolations, on some interior defenders. So those are things, and try to manipulate some of these play actions and get guys to have some eye violations and see if we can create some explosives that way. And then you got to be able to run the ball. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it. And, we got to make sure we get that done.
You got to run the ball. Got to be able to run the ball. So
really?
Maybe this is a week. Maybe this is a week from what Brian Johnson said, that he's seeing it, that the long ball isn't there as much anymore in the NFL with the way teams are covering. That short passing game, maybe even over the middle.
Oh, no. He can't do that. You can't throw the ball over the middle.
Yeah, so maybe you could do stuff like that. And look, sometimes guys are going to say stuff. Coaches, coordinators, players. They'll say some things during a week, during the course of a season that you kind of, bookmark and say, oh, okay, I think he's telling us something there. I'm wondering if that's at the forefront of Brian Johnson's mind.
I'd love to see it.
The passing game and the run game and the short passing game. All right, let's switch it over to the defensive side of the ball. Matt Patricia, who, my God, when you read through and listen to what he says, there ain't a lot there because he just doesn't give an awful lot. But he was asked about looking at the first Tampa Bay game. That was game 3 of the season. And what he saw from the defense then that allowed only 11 points as compared to what they want to try to do now.
I think we just want to make sure this week we're going back to playing, fast and aggressive. Any year you watch a season of football and you're 18 weeks later than where you were when you look at a tape early in the year, it tends to look different. Whether it's offense, defense, or special teams, there is a factor there that goes on of the season. And, we're just going to make sure we give our best effort to that this week, too, so that we look as close to that as possible.
Now, here are a couple of things here. He said early on, we want to be fast and aggressive. I hear you, and I love that, and I want everybody to be like that when they're playing a sport. But when you don't know where you're supposed to be, it totally negates fast and aggressive.
No question.
Wipes it. It's like I told you before, it's like the dream I have of playing basketball in socks. Like you're just kind of, you can't do what you want to do because you're not sure how to do it. Fast and aggressive is great if they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. I would love to see that. So that's one thing. The other one is, 18 weeks later, you're always going to look different. Man, do they look different. God, do they look different. I told you I watched some tape yesterday from that Tampa Bay game, some highlights of it and all. That defense was pretty good that day.
Fundamentally.
Yeah, and, they held Baker Mayfield down to 174 yards, and they limited what Mike Evans did against them. Fast and aggressive, I'm all with you, Matt Patricia, but if you're asking them to do things that they're just not used to doing or that they're not good at doing, Hassan Reddick dropping back into coverage. It's hard to be fast and aggressive. All right, the last thing. He was asked about Baker Mayfield, and wait till you hear how much Matt Patricia seems to be, I don't want to say scared, but very cautious of what Baker Mayfield may do against this team.
The one thing that sticks out right away is just how strong he is. I think he's number 2 when you look at it in forced missed tackles. You just can't get him down. Most defensive structures have 4 guys in the rush. They got 7 in coverage. There's, combinations that you play with that to try to take a guy like Mike Evans out. And then now you have a problem over here, obviously on the other side with Godwin.
He went on again. He went on even more about how hard it is to tackle Baker Mayfield. I got to tell you,
he was hobbling around the other day.
Yeah, we all watch different games. I mean, when the Eagles aren't on, whatever game's on, we're watching. And we go and watch games that are interesting and all of that. I've watched Baker Mayfield a few times this year. Tough to bring down wasn't ever something. Now, it might be a stat out there. But Baker Mayfield, strong and tough to bring down. That surprised me a little bit. I didn't recall that. I was at the Tampa Bay game in Tampa when the Eagles played them earlier this year. Pat, you were sitting right next to me. I didn't see it that night. I don't remember that being part of his arsenal. But Matt Patricia is very wary. And think of it. When you think of this Eagles defense, a guy that has escapability, as he's relating to or telling us, and that has receivers like Godwin, like Evans, man, that doesn't give me any confidence either.
First of all, when I hear Matt Patricia speak and just listen to him and I'm not watching him, his voice doesn't match his look. His voice doesn't sound like the guy I expect to hear.
It's Mike Tyson like.
But I also don't get I didn't get a lot of confidence. I got more confidence out of Brian Johnson that Brian Johnson believes what he was saying yesterday than I get Matt Patricia believing in what he was saying. As Pat would say it with your chest. Brian Johnson has a smug quality to him, almost like an arrogance. I know what it takes.
Smartest guy in the room.
I know what it takes. Yeah, I know what it takes to win. I know what it takes to attack this. Now, they don't do it. Andrew was going to lose his mind yesterday, I think, hearing him talk about the fact that, well, you got to take what the defense gives you, and you got to go underneath, and you got to matriculate down the field and everything like that. And it's exactly the opposite of what this team has tried to do all year.
Yeah.
So he says he knows it.
So maybe it is. Maybe it is in the forefront of his mind that, okay, I see it now. I got it. We've talked about it endlessly, and maybe that's why he brought it up more than a few times yesterday in the press conference.
Now Bam joins us. Bam, good morning. You're on the Fanatic. How are you, buddy?
What's going on? How y'all doing today?
Great to have you on.
I'm in town for the Sixers game tomorrow, but
glad to have you.
Yep. Man, if they don't win this weekend, if they lose this weekend, I think Sirianni and the whole coaching staff got to go. Everybody keeps saying, I've been talking to people when I was in town, got in town yesterday. They said, man, it's Jalen's fault. No, it's not Jalen's fault. Jalen, if you notice, when Jalen goes to the sideline, comes off the series, when he goes sit down on the bench, no one's over there to help him.
Whoa. That's his job. That's his job, Bam. It's his job to go seek the counsel. It's his job to go grab an iPad and look at what he just saw in the last series. It's his job to go and huddle up with his offensive lineman or otherwise. It's not for them to go and bow at the feet of Jalen Hurts and come over and sit in the bench and sulk with him. Come on now.
I don't know, man.
How you clearing him on that?
Because I see that, I noticed that a lot of the other coaches, on the other teams, quarterbacks from other teams, they coaches come over with the iPad and they come over there hey, this is what you did wrong. This is what you need to do this next series. Jalen doesn't have that, man. They don't, ever since Brian Johnson, I understand Brian Johnson was his coach. They've been friends for a little while. They have a little history, but it's not Jalen's fault.
Well, I think you're giving him a free pass. I got to tell you, Bam. I think that's a free pass on a quarterback.
Yeah, I'd like to see more communication on the sideline from them. I mean, like I said before, you can prepare all you want for the 7 days leading up to a game, 6 days. You can be just unflappable in your preparation, but things change during the course of a game. You prepare for a Tampa team that you say, I know they're going to do this, I know they're going to do that. And all of a sudden they do something different, which is what a team will do to you. Well, then you got to sit and talk about it. And it does surprise me. Now, I'm not going to pretend. I only see what the cameras show you. I was at, I've been to a few games since Jalen Hurts has been the quarterback. And, looking on the sideline, sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. The camera seems to always grab him when he's just sitting there by himself. There has to be some kind of communication going on. The guy doesn't go on the field, play, come and sit down, and then when it's fourth down, get back out there again without something going on between players and coaches and quarterback.
When Brian Johnson was the quarterback's coach, Pat, I used to see that all the time. Used to see Jalen Hurts conversing and talking and chatting and everything, but maybe now he doesn't have the same relationship. Got a new quarterback coach, got a new setup.
Yeah, and it might be a situation where Brian Johnson's just too busy.
Yeah, he's getting ready for the next
the OC.
series.
He's not the quarterback's coach now. So I think it's on both. I mean, the coaches have to go over, and if they aren't, then he probably has to go to that. I mean, but there's blame all around. Either way, it's not a great sign.
It didn't look good. It doesn't look good. It looks like it's like they're just like walking off the field with that glazed over, like we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, in other sports, you call timeouts. You have plenty of time to talk things over. Well, when the defense is on the field, that's plenty of time to go over strategy. Why you wouldn't take advantage of that, I don't know. I don't know.
It's just a strange.
And I'm sure it happens way more than we see.
Now, tomorrow, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30. You will have your opportunity to qualify. And then 4 qualifiers will face off around 9:40 tomorrow morning on the show, one of them winning the trip to Tampa, a trip for 2 to Monday night's game in Tampa, including air, hotel, and a VIP tailgate package featuring Hollis Thomas's 50th birthday. So if you're already going to the game and you want to get yourself down there, go to phillysportstrips.com to reserve your spot either in the tailgate-only package, which features Hollis Thomas and his 50th birthday celebration, or you can add on hotel and game tickets. So just a heads up, tomorrow, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, we will get our 4 contestants. So if you want to go on this trip, you want to be with us all day tomorrow to have a chance to win it. And thanks to Philly Sports Trips for helping to make that happen. And it is. Look, I didn't look, Bob, yesterday. The airfares down to Tampa aren't cheap. It looks like they've elevated a little bit.
There's no cheap airfare anymore. I swear to God, it's ridiculous. Trying to fly a son in from Charlotte and do different things. It's crazy how bad it is, but. Yeah, that's it. I'll tell you what, I like that stadium down there.
You did like it?
I did. You're going to like the weather. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, which is fine. But the tailgate's great because there's plenty of space around, easy in and out. We went in, Pat, what was it, about an hour before the game when we were down there?
Yeah, about an hour and a half.
And it was 80-20. We were saying as we were walking in, 80-20 Eagles fans.
Well, hopefully on Monday night, what do you think, 60-40?
Here's hoping.
Yeah, let's hope we can have that. Sheil Kapadia had an excellent piece in The Ringer regarding if you're hiring a head coach in the NFL, here are the 10 things you need to look for. I want to see how Nick Sirianni, 3 years later, meets these guidelines. We'll talk about it next. John Kincade Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, think about sitting at your favorite casino, right? You got a ton of money in your pocket, and it just keeps going and going and going. And then all of a sudden you look down and you see an undo button. We'll get
And Flyers hockey.
Plug in.
97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia. The real and inside story on the Birds as they get ready for the NFL Wild Card. The John Kincade Show. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Game time's coming up at the bottom of the hour, Pat. Life-changing, like incredible prizes, things like that.
We'll see.
I'm going to say
I guess
yes.
I guess you got to tune in.
That's a tease for you.
I'm not
there.
going to sit here and give away everything.
You're not going to give away the house.
Hey, you'll find out what you're getting.
You'll get nothing and like it.
You might. You keep talking like that, you might get nothing and like it.
Yes. Spalding, you can have it. I know that in The Ringer, Kotite did a really nice job on a piece. It's a little bit of a deep dive on it was called like The Ringer's Guide to Hiring a New Coach. So I decided to try to I took my own vote of how many of these. So I want Pat and Bob to listen to each criteria and then decide whether they believe that Nick Sirianni meets that criteria. And if he does, he gets a point. If he doesn't, he gets a 0. Or I'll even let you give him a half a point. So there are these criteria for hiring a head coach. Number 1 is hire a person, not a scheme. You're looking for a leader, not an X's and O's savant, as Shield writes.
I think Sirianni fits that. I didn't know what his scheme was coming in. I still don't know what his scheme is now.
3 years later, you still don't know.
Yeah, offensive mind, but exact scheme when he came in. No, I'll give him that one.
I gave him that one too. Pat, would you give him that one? Okay. Number 2 is find a coach who understands what their job is. Mike Tomlin was part of the Pivot podcast, as Shield writes, and he says a lot of coaches don't understand what they're being paid to do. He says, I love to hear coaches resist the responsibility of coaching. They talk negatively about a dude that can't learn. Man, if everybody could learn, we'd need less coaches. You have to be a teacher, and you have to protect your locker room. I'd say he gets that one with me.
Yeah,
but I don't know him as a teacher, but he gets that one.
That's a very roundabout thing that Shield put out there. Like, I mean, it starts one way and then finishes up in a total other. So I'll give him a half. I'll give him a half of one for that.
You're giving him a half, Pat. You're giving him a half on that one, or a whole?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bad 6 weeks, but I'll give him 40%.
Well, it's unbelievable. Just keep score your own.
4/10.
Make sure they can build out a strong staff. Nope.
Well,
I'm not giving him that
50-50.
one.
Well, it was great last year.
Yeah, but he didn't build that staff. I mean, he built that
I thought
staff.
you said
he
before
was a
that
part
he was
of it.
big on bringing in Steichen and Gannon.
No, he was a part of it, but it was led by the general manager, the first search. This is one where he had a lot more input on Brian Johnson being elevated and the fact of going out and getting Sean Desai. Again, you heard yesterday, though, he gets screwed.
Hard to believe.
You don't?
I don't think I think he had a say in it, yes, just as he had a say in Steichen and Gannon. I do not think a third-year coach, set 2 years under his belt, is telling Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, yep, these are the guys, let's get them. I just find that hard to believe.
So you give him that one?
Staff, I'll give him a half because one time he did okay, the other time no.
I'm the exact same.
Same thing? All right, find someone who's willing to give players a voice. I give him that one. He gives players a voice. He has his leadership council and meets with them and talks about the fact that he took players' ideas about training camp and things like that.
Yeah, I'd be more surprised of a coach these days that doesn't allow their players to have a voice. I mean, are there coaches now in this day that are going to go out there with social media, everything, go out there and say, I don't want you guys speaking?
Here's one, Matt Patricia. Hey, that's what killed him in Detroit. Is that they're talking about a voice, though, not only with the media, they're talking about that they get to create the culture of the organization.
Yeah, sure.
They get to create that. And there are old school guys. By the way, Mike Tomlin does not believe in a lot of that. He wants to set the boundaries, but let the players play within the playpen, within the walls that he builds. He sets the boundaries, and then he tries to stay the hell out of it. How about prioritizing offensive efficiency?
Well, he has to because he is an offensive coach.
But does he prioritize offensive efficiency?
Well, he probably prioritizes offense, so I assume efficiency's under that.
I'm giving him a half.
Is he good at it? I don't know. So, yeah, okay, I'll give him a half.
I'll give him a half on that because of the fact that I don't believe he has – if you're looking for offensive efficiency, you wouldn't be constantly having an offense that is trying to hit the deep ball, that is playing, Oakland Raiders 1970 brand offense where they take what the defense gives you, the things that Brian Johnson obviously ignored yesterday. So, Pat, where do you give him on that one?
I'm giving him 0.3 because – when he had control of the offense, he wasn't good at it. I'm giving him the 3 because he gave it over to Shane Steichen.
Okay.
He recognized that, but now it's trash, and he doesn't know what to do. So 0.3.
Emphasize the need for flexibility. Every coach has their core philosophies. There's nothing wrong with that, but trends change often, and they show that they can adjust on the fly. Nope. This team's made no adjustments this year.
Well, you talked about halftime adjustments from Desai earlier this year being good on the defensive side of the ball. So there was
in a few
some
games
of that.
there was, sure. A few games they did do that well. The philosophy of the team, though, has not changed. He has not imposed, say, what we're doing is not working, guys. We need to shake things up and try to do something different.
Well, there's been, I'm just trying to look for the opposite way of it. Like there's been games where they decided we're running the ball this game and it worked. There were games where they said Jalen Hurts is a pocket quarterback this game and it worked. There used to be some of that. And recently, not much, but
Where do you fall, Pat?
I'm going to give him a point for that.
A point for that one?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think last year he adjusted by handing 2 years ago by handing the play calling over. I do think some of their adjustments have looked okay at times. So I'll give him a point.
Okay, make sure the coach has a plan for game management. During the game, his fingerprints are over everything. Nope.
Well, if you're talking good and bad.
He won't take control of the offense.
He won't. Yeah.
I mean, to me, I don't see him taking control of anything. First of all, I don't see him, too. Even part of this is teaching on the sidelines. There are times even where a head coach has to teach on the sidelines. I don't see a lot of that. I see it rarely.
Yeah. Well, how many times do they show Nick Sirianni on the sidelines? I mean, 5 times a game. So, you're talking very minimal do we see him. We do see it when he gets in fights with his linebacker coaches and different things that way. That's you got to be an insider for that one. I almost find it hard to answer that.
How about casting a wide net when interviewing for coaches?
Again, I don't know.
You think that's organizationally?
Yeah, I mean, they brought up Brian Johnson from the inside. As I said, we've all said before, a lot of us didn't have a problem with it at the time because of such a great offense last year, and he was a quarterback coach, natural progression, all of that. So they didn't cast a wide net there. They were hindered with the doings of Jonathan Gannon as far as what they could do on the defensive side of the ball, as far as bringing in a coordinator. So that's almost an incomplete for me.
Pat?
I'm going to go with I'll give him a point for that.
You like that?
Yeah, because we didn't know who Shane Steichen was. We didn't know who Jonathan Gannon was. We certainly didn't know who Sean Desai was. And Brian Johnson, even though he was elevated internally, he came from college. So
we didn't hear him or anything.
Yeah, and it isn't necessarily coming from a bunch of different coaching tree or from the same coaching tree. It's coming from, a hodgepodge. I'll give him a point.
It says don't get duped by the heavyweight endorsement. Don't fall into a trap of accepting the word of another coach on whether a guy should be hired or not, especially the fact that I guess coaches want to see their guys get promoted. So it almost should be taken into consideration, but don't let that be a defining force. Did they maybe lean too much on an endorsement of Nick Sirianni from a guy that they respected, the Eagles organization?
Oh.
Frank Reich sold him heavy.
Yeah.
That's been made clear.
Well, they had to see something. I mean, there had to be something more than just a Frank Reich, right?
Nobody else interviewed him.
Yeah.
Nobody else asked to interview him. And by the way, it's worked out well for Nick. It's not like he's a buffoon. he's done okay.
Yeah, sometimes you look at people and a coach and you just say, all right, at least I do. And I'm like, man, what did they say? What did they do in their interview that just wowed at Jeffrey Lurie, who's been around the game for 30 years, who wowed at Howie Roseman, who has overseen a Super Bowl victory and been here for so long? Nick Sirianni must have done that. Andy Reid must have done it back in the day. We heard of the notebooks that he brought in to visit with ownership back then. That was so impressive. So, yeah.
Everything, right?
Yeah.
How about define the coach must understand the coach general manager power structure?
Well, I don't think Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are hiring anybody if they don't understand that.
I'll give him a full point on that one. Because there's no way that he doesn't understand that. Like, he wouldn't have gotten the job in the beginning, Pat, right? If he didn't understand.
No shot.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to let Howie be the man. Hey, Howie can be the man. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just glad to be getting an NFL head coaching job where nobody else interviewed me.
Yeah, unless your name is Belichick or maybe Harbaugh or one of those guys now. Of course you're going to come in and say, yeah, whatever you guys say, sure. Yeah, here's my philosophy, but if you guys have something different, I'm all ears.
I think my number's less than both of yours then. I go 6.5 on that one for Nick. And it's still a good score. I'm
right around you. I had an incomplete in there because I simply don't know.
It's like an average score.
I had a 5.2.
Okay, so yours was lower.
Attaboy, Pat.
Yeah.
Yours was lower than mine. That's just a little exercise there. Trying to figure out, like, when you're looking to hire a coach. And it's one of the things that there are many in our listening audience as we begin the 8 o'clock hour of the John Kincade Show here on The Fanatic that believe that if there is a loss by Nick Sirianni on Monday night, that he will be replaced. I would say from, at least if I just listen to the shows on the station, I believe the majority of fans believe that there'll be a coaching change, that something's going to happen. They're not going to put up with it. I keep hearing that term. They're not going to put up with this if they get embarrassed on Monday night, if this thing goes down in flames. And if so, how late do you, I guess they already.
Are they making calls now is what you're asking?
Yes. Do you believe they are? I believe they are. I believe they're
It'd
looking.
be really damning if it gets out that they have done that. And say Sirianni goes on, or the Eagles go on a little bit of a run. They win Monday.
That'd be bad.
They play really good against whoever the next week and maybe even pull out an upset. That's pretty damning that you're floating out there that, yeah, you're going to fire your coach when you're undecided.
Robert Kraft and Jeff Lurie, a good relationship and a long-term relationship. And a guy that I know Jeff Lurie at times is, they'll like refer to it like as a mentor as far as how you want to run an organization, how you want to do things. I wonder if a conversation would ever go on going, do you think we'd get along? You think we'd be able, because the one thing I would say is they would never do it because Howie would have to take a back seat to Bill Belichick.
I don't see. I think that Bill Belichick has a better chance of hosting
Jeopardy.
Yeah, mornings, afternoons, middays on this station than he does coaching the Philadelphia Eagles.
There's no way it's happening.
And Jeopardy, yeah, and add Jeopardy to it, and add Wheel of Fortune too, double duty.
Oh, geez, no, that's going to be Ryan Seacrest.
Well, you didn't.
Yeah, I don't.
You didn't phrase it in the form of a question, so we're gonna move on.
No, Seacrest is going to host Wheel of Fortune now.
Yeah, nobody.
He got that job. Bad. I not like that. See, now I don't like that show.
I hate that show, and I'm not a huge Ryan Seacrest fan.
So you dialed into episode 1 then?
Yeah. I couldn't see Belichick coming here.
I couldn't.
What kind of a place does he go to? Does he go to a place, though, that's like this, where you're kind of, air quotes, on the cusp, where maybe you're thinking a coach like that can take you over the top? He's not going to a rebuild, I wouldn't imagine. Not at 72. He'll be 72 in April. I can't imagine he's going to a rebuild. If Bill Belichick wants a job, where does he go to?
I think he goes to the Chargers.
And even them are you putting your hands? I don't even think you're on the cusp.
Well, you don't have a GM.
Yeah.
For one thing, you don't have a GM and you don't have a coach. So that's the kind of place I look immediately for Belichick. There is that Belichick's going to bring in his own GM. I would believe that if he goes to another organization, he's not going to a place where a GM is going to be his boss. That ain't happening.
He could be GM also.
That's what I mean. Is that
Yeah,
no? But I
coach
mean,
and
no. I
GM.
mean, yeah. I have a feeling that they'd probably have somebody, even if it's player personnel or whatever, that would be there. It ain't going to be here though, and there'll be
I
people.
can't see
Do you think
him
Bill
here.
Belichick would be a great choice to coach the Eagles? I don't. By the way, I see this as having Washington written all over.
I lean towards a Washington, but again, that's a rebuild. That's a tough sell to a 71-year-old.
They get the second pick in the draft, though, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I wonder now, good new ownership is good for that. Obviously, from what they came for with Daniel Snyder, from what they came from, that's a check in the positive direction if you're looking to go coach that team. I do. I just have a feeling he might wind up there, and I think Josh Harris would try to make a big move there.
They're trying to get a stadium built. You bring in Bill Belichick, you're bringing in one of the most revered names in the game, and that might help you with getting things cleared to build a stadium. The energy, the fan base, Washington would sell. They'd start selling some tickets.
Yeah,
if Belichick's
sure.
coming in.
I wonder if he just retires.
Really, you think he might?
I don't know. I have no idea
could.
the ins and outs of Bill Belichick at all, but that's a long grind, man. He was, 24 years in New England? So much success. And when you're at 71 or 72, when the football season starts, trying to regain that with a new organization that's probably years away, that's a tough grind, man, because they're not looking at the now. You're looking at all right, where am I trying to get to and how far from it am I?
Mike Greenberg made the case on ESPN that he believes it's going to be Harbaugh to the Chargers.
A lot of people are speculating that one, yeah.
That he'll want Justin Herbert.
And he's spoken. Apparently, Harbaugh has spoken in the past about how much he likes Herbert. I don't know what their connection was. I know I read it somewhere, but I forget. So that's been popular.
And a couple Chicago writers saying that if they moved on from Eberflus, but who they're not, they're bringing him back, that Harbaugh would have seriously considered going to the Bears with all their draft capital and young talent. And he was part of that organization for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. One thing that came to my mind the other day was, I don't know if you guys saw during the game where John Harbaugh got to the sidelines and tapped him. It was during the game. I thought it was cool. You see Jim in his stance, his coaching stance that he always takes, and they give each other a hug, and it hit me right then and there. Ooh, what if Jim decided to go coach the Commanders and they're right there near each other?
Oh, I don't think he'd go to Commanders.
You're in opposite conferences, so there's really you're near each other. We've heard all the stories about how close that family is. And all right, you're getting up in your career. Your brother's established. Being close to him, that I don't know, that may be a draw to Washington for a Jim Harbaugh.
I'd bring Jack Harbaugh in too. Dad's fun.
Yeah,
Dad's fun. Dad's a fun guy.
It seems like they had those kids grow up right and all that. Who has it better than us? Nobody. Yeah.
Matt Breen was on yesterday with Andrew, in middays. And he talked about something that I think a lot of people are feeling this week, that it sort of doesn't feel like a playoff game week.
No, and I don't blame anybody not having that juice. You think about every playoff run and season, there's that first game, there's energy and you're excited for that game. And now it doesn't feel like a playoff game. It doesn't feel like people are in the playoffs right now. It's very weird. I can't think of a playoff season that compares to this. It's like you're waiting for it to end. But if they win Monday night, then you have juice going into, if it's Dallas or San Fran in the next round.
I think, Pat, he speaks a little bit like you on this one, that you weren't feeling the juice. But I guarantee you, by Monday night at Barnaby's in Westchester, when you and Bob and Pat are doing you and Bob and Andrew are doing the pregame, that I bet you that buzz, that feeling, Andrew talks about the butterflies, I bet you'll be there. I really do.
Pat, speak for yourself.
I bet you I don't.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, and a large part of it is what looms afterwards and what position the NFL has put the Eagles in. I just don't foresee any situation where the Eagles on a short week are beating a team that has a week off. I just don't. I think that's a big reason why we've looked so much towards the offseason this week and not necessarily the game itself is, we're looking at, do you fire Nick Sirianni? If you were to turn on our station and you hop on Twitter, it seems like we've accepted defeat for this season, and the game hasn't even been played. But it's because how are you going to beat San Francisco in San Fran? They had a week off, and you're a short week. So okay, you get past the Bucs. We all expect them to get past the Bucs, but then after that,
we don't all expect them to get past the Bucs.
Okay, there's one jagaloon over here who doesn't expect him to get past the Bucs.
I feel bad.
I'm kidding, Bobby. I love you.
I feel bad though, Pat, that and I believe that you are speaking from the heart. You're speaking honestly, but I sort of feel bad that because
this sucks.
Playoff games matter.
Yeah,
they do. Playoff seasons matter.
Yeah, this isn't fun for me.
Yeah, we'll be more amped up come Monday. I mean,
I know you will be.
Pat knows he will be, and I like watching games, and important games is a lot of fun, and this is really important. The style of football doesn't have me excited at all.
I don't blame you.
I don't blame put it this way: Tampa had to win a game, and we've talked about it. They had to win a game. They're playing probably the worst team in the league in Carolina, and they only scored 9 points. But, their defense also didn't allow any. Now, Carolina stinks, There's not a team in this league I think the Eagles could pitch a shutout against. Not even close. No, I don't believe so either. Not even close. And, in the forefront of my mind, and then reading and hearing and then reading what Matt Patricia said yesterday, I'm telling you, I said it before. Baker Mayfield threw for 174 against the Eagles when they played in Game 3 this year. I think he throws for more than that in the first half. I just don't see this Eagles defense stopping anyone right now.
Matt Breen told Andrew that he felt that there was the biggest mismatch in this matchup, and here's what it is.
That's, to me, the biggest mismatch this week is the Dave Canales offense, which, you look at, you can quickly throw out Baker Mayfield, but then you got to look at this is an offense that Baker Mayfield threw 4,000 yards, and an offense that is creative. It's everything that I wish the Eagles offensive structure looked like. They get the ball in the hands of their best players. They put Rashad White out and use him as a wide receiver. But if it ends Monday night, I think you will see the new offensive coordinator in here next year, no matter what. And to me, I'd like to see, get that next guy. The Panthers went out and they went to college a couple years ago and went and got Joe Brady. Go and find the next creative offensive play caller. And this offense, you have the personnel, you have talented guys. Other teams are playing chess with their offense, and it just seems like the Eagles are playing football. And I think you're going to see an offense on Monday night that you're going to go against. But it's kind of one of those teams that plays chess.
The one thing I would just say is that Joe Brady didn't come in and, sort of set the NFL on its ear. Is that you want to get somebody, but you want to get somebody. I would always think going to college, the defensive side of the ball might be something that I would look at.
I like the guy Minter from Michigan.
Oh, yes, you do.
I love the way they played football, their open field tackling, their schemes. Probably watched 3 or 4 Michigan games this year in almost in its entirety, and they're good. They're just good. They're everywhere they're supposed to be. You can just tell he trusts the guys that need to go one-on-one and guys that need help. He just has a real handle on things. I wouldn't mind a new name like that. Now let me ask you guys this. If I were to say to you, what do you grab first? You have to look for an offensive and a defensive coordinator, say this summer. Which one do you look for first?
Defensive.
Pat, you go the same way?
Yes.
Which is wild because where are most of your stars?
Oh, no question.
I think that's why you are looking defense because
Yeah.
I mean, the offense should theoretically be way easier to coach.
But you can also get more out of it, maybe. Yeah, there's good ways to look at it. You're probably right. But I think I'd go defense also first.
And you would absolutely love it, like you're saying there with Minter, a guy who plays a brand of defense that this city would love. Like Wink Martindale quits the other day. He storms into Brian Dable's office, and literally they want to, according to reports, it could have actually even gotten physical. Like, that's how animated they were. And he quit. He got on a plane. He went to the airport, got on a plane, and went to meet his family down in Florida. And now he's available.
Yeah, I don't want him.
You don't want him. Why?
No, I mean, I hear, he blitzes. The Giants' defense hasn't scared me since he's been there. And
no, you don't want it? Brand of football that I do think that the next defensive coordinator, the brand of football matters. that because this city just, I mean, the most the most impactful defense this city ever saw was last year, and they still weren't pleased. And it's just a matter of do you cater to that or not? And I don't think that they do when they make these decisions. But hey, game time comes your way at the bottom of the hour. Pat's going to entertain us, hopefully, with some fantastic prizes, too, for your time. And I'm sure Brendan's going to make sure that nobody can get in on the phone lines early, so we don't have any of those people trying to cheat to get in to win some of these prizes.
If you're calling now, you're disqualified.
You will be out of here.
Now playing games here.
Bob says
during game time.
Bob says he firmly believed in one thing when it comes to sports. And it doesn't seem like he believes it anymore. That seems moving. You don't want to miss it. It's impactful. John Kincade Show next, 97.5 The Fanatic. I love the BetParx app. I love the fact that they're the official winning partner of the Philadelphia 76ers. And I blew it last night. Numbers on Bill Belichick, by the way, they are pretty staggering. What he's done without Tom Brady. He is 2-8 in winning seasons when Tom Brady wasn't his quarterback as a professional head coach. 2-8 as far as just a winning season. That's a number that I did not realize was as staggering as it is.
Yeah, I hear the talk of that. Oh, it shows you who the real leader was. Okay, but did Bill Belichick not have a huge hand in making Tom Brady what he was?
Oh, I think he did.
Yeah, as far as a 6th round to the best quarterback of all time. But
2-8. That's like two winning seasons in 10. That's surprising.
Yeah,
without Brady. But we'll find out how it all shakes out. I mean, it's a little bit difficult to figure out what he brings to the table. Like did his assistant coaches not get any credit with Bill Belichick?
Well, a lot of them have gone off on their own, and a lot of them have not succeeded on their own. So, I'm never going to doubt Bill Belichick as a coach. I've heard it all, like, oh, well, look, he's not doing it without Tom Brady. Okay. He was there for Tom Brady, so it wasn't, it's like he came along and rode the coattails.
But he was losing before Brady.
Yeah.
They were losing, and then Brady come in and they go nuts. But hey, you said you believed in one thing when it came to sports, that you're not sure you aren't really in that boat. Do you believe it now?
Yeah, as a player, as a coach, as a parent, as a journalist, watching sports until now, there's always one thing that was common in my head of why somebody was good, why a team was good. And we can get into the overthinking that the Eagles appear to do. It's not that to me. It's one thing that is the common denominator in all of that, whether your kid's playing good, you're playing good, whatever, and it's confidence. It really is. I've always thought that. I thought it when I was a kid, and then when I got older watching, and then covering and all. The great players are great, yeah, but the confidence level can always be shaken. And we've seen great players go into slumps. Why? Their confidence is shaken a little bit because they don't believe in themselves, whether they're shooting a basketball or whatever. I think it's a major, major factor with this Eagles team right now, whether it's confidence in themselves or confidence in the coaches. They don't have it.
No.
They do not. And when I was watching the some of the highlights yesterday against Tampa Bay, my God, did that offensive line exude confidence. And the running backs, DeAndre Swift and Jalen Hurts, exude confidence in the plays that they were running. It was night and day. I mean, unbelievable night and day. Then you had guys playing on their toes. Now you have guys standing flat-footed because they just don't have the confidence. And is it something you can garner, get back quickly? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know. But I will say that the common denominator when things are going bad to me is lack of confidence. And my God, they don't have much of it right now.
It is surprising for a team that in February played in the Super Bowl and so many of those faces being the same.
Yeah.
Some of the coaches being the same. It's amazing. I would say this is one of the just biggest collapses from what looked like it was and Pat, you and I talked about a lot last offseason, the window of opportunity from Window Nation being wide open.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you guys have been Eagles fans for a lot longer than me, right? I mean, we're talking, well, for you, Bobby, it's been since 1936, and I remember you wrote a great piece about Jay Bowringer, the first overall pick that spurned the Birds. Great piece. No, but in all seriousness, like, you guys have been Eagles fans for like 30, 40 years, and how many times have you thought, okay, they're legitimate contenders?
Oh, I would say 10.
Yeah, maybe 10, right?
Maybe
so
10,
like
maybe
that
10.
window being open is it doesn't come around all that often.
I got fooled.
Even during the Andy Reid era, that window was open more than any other time. But after T.O. left, it was kind of dreary there where you're like, okay, they can contend, but it wasn't they're a favorite to win the Super Bowl. And I've had it more in my lifetime than you guys, like, in terms of percentage.
You've had a ton.
But it's still, it doesn't come around
You got to
All the
take
time.
it, and you got to take advantage of it when you get the opportunity. You didn't did it. But you know what? When you get the opportunity to win fabulous, life-changing prizes, Pat Egan brings it to you in Game Time.
Yes, Game Time NFL Playoff Edition, 610-632-0975. We are playing Name That Eagle. The way this game is going to work, I'm going to give you a soundbite from, this is going to surprise you guys, from an eagle. Okay?
It's very good.
Some are easy, some are hard, but you just have to tell me who the soundbite is of. And for those fabulous, possibly life-changing prizes, we have a pair of tickets to go see the Flyers and Stars next Thursday. We have a pair of tickets to go see the Sixers Kings tomorrow. We have a pair of tickets for the Sixers and Rockets on Monday. A pair of tickets to go see Motley Crue on May 3rd at the Hard Rock Live. And we have a pair of tickets to go see Joe Gatto of Impractical Jokers on January 19th at the Met. And also, all winners get a prize, a box of Wise chips.
Ooh.
So if you win, you're getting 2 prizes.
That sounds good to me.
And all you gotta
Are
do,
these all current Eagles?
yeah, all of them
Okay.
are current Eagles.
All
All
right.
right. And we ran the gamut. All right. 610-632-0975. And you guys can be a lifeline for the person. So we'll do it like we did last week. The person can choose which one of you guys
Who they wanna play with.
Yeah, they want to play with. Let's go to Rich in Cherry Hill up first.
Hi, Rich.
Hey, good morning, guys.
See if we can find
Rich,
your winner.
who do you want to play with? Do you want to play with Bob or do you want to play with John?
Bob.
Okay.
All right, here we go,
You
Rich.
guys just have to listen to this cut and tell me which eagle it is.
I'm just trying to hit the best ball I can, and that was a bit beyond what our range was that we talked about, but we'll take it.
All right. Who is that eagle?
I think I got it, Rich, if you don't.
All right, Bob. Bob, you got it.
I think we got Jake Elliott on this
Jake
one.
Elliott is correct.
All right, Rich.
Yes.
Good job, buddy.
Now, did you recognize the voice, or were you going on the clues that he gave you?
The clues that he gave us.
Well,
it
the
was either
clues-
him or a golfer.
The clues, one, Rich, a box of Wise chips. Wise Snacks is giving away authentic pro football jerseys to 100 lucky fans. Munch the good vibe on game day with Wise Snacks. Go to wisegameday.com for your chance to win. He also wins a pair of tickets to go see the Flyers and Stars next Thursday.
Excellent.
At Wells Fargo Center. Get tickets at PhiladelphiaFlyers.com. Let's keep it rolling with Rich in Levittown. We go from Rich in Cherry Hill to Rich in Levittown.
Hi, Rich.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
All right, Rich, who do you want to play with, John or Bob?
I'm going to go with John. John never let me down.
Okay. Well, it speaks for one of us. All right, listen for the cut. Here we go.
Honestly, I have no idea. That guy was a little bit heavier than I thought he was. Initially, I got stalled here, and I was like, hang on, things not right. And, just have to push through, and made it to the end. Like a Simba moment. So, a little Lion King press.
All right, who is that, boys?
Hey, Rich, there's not many Australians on the team, are there?
No, there's not. There's
Jordan Mailata.
That's Mailata.
No, that is Jalen Hurts, gentlemen. Jalen Hurts.
No, it is not.
Yeah,
He's
it's
lying
Jordan
to us.
Mailata.
There you go, buddy.
That was a layup. You win
Thanks,
Wise
Rich.
chips, but you also are going to win a pair of tickets to go see Sixers Kings tomorrow. Wells Fargo Center. Purchase tickets for any 76ers game. Visit Ticketmaster.com/76ers.
When you hit that buzzer, I thought, is there another person that has that accent?
I was just messing with it.
That's good.
Let's go to Anthony in Bristol up next.
Anthony.
How you doing?
Anthony,
see
who
who
do you
you're
want to play with, John or Bob?
Bob.
All right. Listen
All
up
right,
for
here we go, Ant.
Listen up for this one.
Pulled up to the spot and they said, you don't have the right parking pass. I said, I know, I just got elevated. And they were like, verify that, So they directed me, and I've never parked at the stadium. So they pointed me over to the lot where the tailgaters were parked.
All right, who is that?
You got it, Ant?
No.
All right, I'll be your lifeline here. I'll go Britton Covey.
Britton Covey is correct.
That is correct.
Nice.
That is, yes, when he had to park with tailgaters.
Yes. Which
because
is incredible.
they didn't think that he actually was an NFL player. And honestly, when you look at him, you can understand why. Anthony ends up winning the box of Wise chips, but he also ends up winning a pair of tickets to go see Sixers Rockets on Monday. Wells Fargo Center. To purchase tickets for any 76ers game, visit Ticketmaster.com/76ers.
Britton Covey says the same thing about you.
Yeah, I understand. I don't look the part either. Matt in Lehigh Valley is up next.
Hi, Matt.
Good morning, guys.
Oh, we got a perfect game going here.
All
We
right,
don't want
Matt,
to mess it up.
Who do you want to play with, Bob or John?
I'll take John.
All right, listen up for the cut. Here it is.
Every game, you're kind of trying to tell a story with play calling. It's not just, you look at a piece of paper and close your eyes and just point at something. I think Brian Johnson is doing a phenomenal job.
Well, he's wrong on that, but who is it?
Ooh, I might need some help with that one, John.
Well, Matt, I've got to tell you, I'm a little cringing on this one. I am.
Is it the Brian Johnson comment? Because that made me throw up in my mouth,
Yeah,
too.
it made me throw up a little bit.
5,
in that one.
4,
Yeah.
3.
I'm sorry.
2.
I am sorry.
And you know why this is really embarrassing for you?
Why?
Because it was a guy that literally was on our show in front of us, live with us, Landon Dickerson.
Oh, no.
You know what?
You know
Matt,
what I
I'm
was
gonna give you,
thinking?
I'm
It
going
was
to give
a
you a
coach.
box of Wise
All right,
chips
give him a box
because,
of Wise
because
chips.
that's
I was thinking that was a coach hearing him talk.
He's
I wasn't
literally
thinking
right
a player.
in front of you, man.
That's
He was,
incredible.
He was
That's
as close
terrible.
to as Bob is
I didn't
to you.
even want to help him out because I was so disappointed.
I'm
get out of here,
I'm
Bob.
mad and I'm disappointed. Let's go to Mo in Warrington. All right, Mo.
We say Mo.
What's up, Mo?
Hey, morning, guys.
Mo,
Let's see what you do.
who do you want to play with, Bob or John?
Well, after John's performance, I got to go with Bob.
Dude, I get it.
No, I don't blame you,
All
dude.
right, here's the cut.
For everybody when it comes to Philly, they hear about Coach Sirianni and the way that the way he handles things in the organization, the way that he take care of the players, the way that the players pay him back when he do that.
All right, Mo, who is it?
Oh, man. I'm going to need Bobby's help. I think I know, but I need Bob.
Well, give me who you think it is, and then if it's wrong, we'll go to Bob.
I was going to say Slay.
No, wait, it's not Slay. I'm sorry.
I thought he said Fletch.
I think Bob's got it.
I thought he said Fletch too. Well, we'll just all right. There it is. It's
There
Fletch.
we go.
Congrats, Mo. Because
Way to go, Mo.
I could tell by Bob's face he knew it anyway. Mo, you were going to end up winning a pair of tickets to go see Motley Crue on May 3rd, Hard Rock Live at Etis Arena at Hard Rock Hotel Casino in Atlantic City. Tickets for both May 3rd and May 4th shows are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. All right, let's go to who do we got?
Cole?
Cole in Allentown is up next.
What's up, Cole?
Cole, who do you want to play with, Bob or John?
Give me Bob.
Okay. All right. Listen up for the cut. Here it is.
Then everybody called me Mr. Consistent on defense because I've been playing this game for a long time and I've been having 11 consistent years.
All right, Cole, who is it?
I haven't the slightest. I hope Bob does.
I think it's a Michigan alum and BG Brandon Graham.
No, it was Slay.
Oh, that was
Darius
Slay. Oh, my fault, Cole.
You know what, Cole? You know what we do on this show?
Some
We
chipsies?
let the listeners down, but you're going to end up getting a box of Wise chips because I feel bad. You shouldn't be punished because we don't know football. Let's get a few more in here, all right?
Okay.
Let's go to Tony in the Northeast.
Tony, how are you, buddy?
How's it going, gentlemen?
All right, Tony, who do you want to play with, Bob or John?
Bobby, let's go.
All right. That's a bold strategy
It's
after the
like-
last one.
it's
Here,
really
here you go. Here's the cut.
I went crack the safety. No, I went crack him. Look, he hit me. I went back. Kelsey cleaned him up. I bust my fucking cleats, man. My last pair of OGs.
All right, who do you think it is?
That's BG.
It is not BG. Do you
It is
want
not.
to use your lifeline of Bob?
I guess so.
Well, I guess you're going to have to.
If he's
Yeah,
wrong,
you're right.
but I thought you were making a mistake there. I don't even know who the hell that was. He missed him and somebody cleaned it up. So must be defensive player.
That's hard.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
Guys, this is going to surprise you. It was Devontae Smith.
Wow, that does surprise me.
Devontae Smith. Yeah, BG's a
Wow.
good guess because of how animated he was, but unfortunately, he's Devontae Smith.
Well,
Tony.
Devontae sounds different when he's fired up.
Yeah.
And that's definitely fired up Devontae Smith.
All right, let's go to David in Blackwood. All right, David's up next.
Hi, David.
How you doing?
David,
buddy.
who do you want to play with, Bob or John?
Let's give John a shot.
Okay.
get
All
back
right,
to
you
John.
got to redeem yourself, Johnny. All right, here's the
Yes.
cut.
I think I got to knock that out of the park. It's going to be hard to replicate. Man, you already know. I'm coming for you, 3-5.
All right, guys, do you have any idea who that is?
You have an idea, David?
not
He
really.
gave you a bit. This one's tough, but he gave you a big hint in the cut.
I'll tell you, I'm leaning towards it was AJ. What do you think?
Yeah, let's go. Go for it.
We're going for it? No.
We're in a
35.
slump.
He's 35 in your program, number 1 in your hearts, Boston Scott.
Boston Scott.
Yeah, Boston Scott.
I thought he was coming for 35. Wow.
Yeah, all right.
good.
Let's get one more in
Sorry
here. all right?
about that.
Let's get one more. Let's go to Deke in North Wales.
What's up, Deke?
Hey, what's going on? Let's get it.
Deke, who do you want to play with, John or Bob?
We're going with Big Bat Bobby.
All right, listen up for the cut.
Every time DeAndre Swift gets tackled at the 1, I just look at him in the huddle. I'm like, I'm so sorry, man. Like, you know exactly what we're about to do.
All right, this is kind of a layup, guys. Who is it?
Yeah. You got it, Deke?
I want to say it's an offensive lineman. Is it Mailata or is it Lane Johnson?
You only get one guess.
You only get one guess. Does it let Bob pick it? Let Bob pick it.
All right, Bob, what do you think?
Jason Kelsey.
That is a winner.
I couldn't agree more. I get pissed off when he gets to the 1 and he doesn't get rewarded for his touchdown. Pisses me off. But
There we
anyway,
go.
that's just some journalistic.
Little editorial.
Yeah, editorial. You're going to end up winning a pair of tickets to go see Joe Gatto of the Impractical Jokers January 19th at the Met, Philadelphia. Get tickets at Ticketmaster.com, and that is game time.
I got to tell you had a couple people in there I don't think I've ever heard speak before. I don't remember hearing Boston Scott, and I don't remember hearing DeAndre Swift.
So Boston Scott is really difficult. That one's tough. The 3-5 kind of gave it away a little bit, but I would have gotten that one wrong. We didn't do DeAndre Swift. We did Devontae Smith.
Yeah, Devontae Smith. I'm sorry.
Devontae Smith, legitimately, and I know what Brennan took that from. You'd have to watch Devontae Smith mic'd up because it is pretty funny. Like there's a video that circulates of Devontae Smith dealing with the cold, and it's hilarious because he does not deal with the cold very well. But you'd have to watch one of those, and even then, it's difficult. I don't blame the caller for guessing Brandon Graham, but you guys started off really strong, and then
Man, we lost 3 of the last 4.
We're just like the Eagles.
Exactly. We thought,
Bobby.
like Dallas Goddard said, we just sort of put our feet up and thought,
that's it. Yeah,
we got it. We're cruising. We have a winner.
I mean,
it's on cruise control.
You only cost the listener,
Yeah, but
prizes.
and then Pat, swoops in and is like, you know what? Those guys let you down.
Just
but
because
we're giving you the wise chips.
Yeah, just because you guys don't care about the caller doesn't mean that I don't.
Yeah, I mean, you
know?
really do. You have a kindness to you, Pat.
And hopefully the callers recognize that I'm their friend. You guys are you couldn't care less.
We let them down. Hey, last time that the Eagles played Tampa, it was lopsided and crazy. How lopsided? We'll share it with you next. John Kincade Show here on 97.5, The Fanatic. Our friend David Kelleher, you see him on First Fridays as our presenting sponsor, and he's just like the guy he is on TV. He is a rabid Philly sports fan.
Arlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station. Home of 76ers basketball and Flyers hockey.
Plug in.
97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia. Now, a Birds playoff update on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
The Philadelphia Eagles continue to prepare for their first playoff game this Monday night against the Bucs. Yesterday, defensive coordinator Matt Patricia discussed what the Eagles are going to face in Baker Mayfield and the Bucs offense.
The one thing that sticks out right away is just how strong he is. I think he's number 2 when you look at it in forced missed tackles. You just can't get him down. You know, most defensive structures have 4 guys in the rush. They got 7 in coverage. There's, combinations that you play with that to try to take a guy like Mike Evans out. And then now you have a problem over here, obviously on the other side with Godwin.
Much of the ire for Eagles fans has turned to offensive coordinator Brian Johnson, who will be interviewing for the vacant head coaching job down in Carolina, surprisingly. But before he interviews with the Panthers, he talked about how he plans to call a game when the opposing team is trying to take away the big play.
You have to go into some catch and runs and try to find some isolations, on some interior defenders. So those are things, and try to manipulate some of these play actions and get guys to have some eye violations and see if we can create some explosives that way. And then you got to be able to run the ball. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it. And, we got to make sure we get that done.
The Eagles, of course, are no strangers to the Bucs. They faced them in Week 3. The Eagles won 25-11. I'm Pat Egan on your home for continuing coverage of the Birds as they get ready for their wild card game against the Bucs. 97.5, The Fanatic.
The real and inside story on the Birds as they get ready for the NFL wild card. The John Kincade Show. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
The real story. We're not sugarcoating anything. We're not going to come with some contrived storylines for you. Even though Kyle, and I appreciate Kyle listening to the show, Birds fan 1992. He says every radio station's doom and gloom. Talk about low-hanging fruit. So I asked Kyle, I said, could you please list the positives about the Eagles' performances? Because I'd love to hear them. We could sit here. You want us to, I always wonder, would people rather hear you just give them a bunch of BS and be like, Eagles are winning. Eagles are going to make a run. Eagles are going somewhere. First of all, basing it on anything we've seen in the last 6 weeks, the only game was where you survived the Giants on Christmas.
Yeah, and that didn't give you a ton
win.
of confidence, right?
Yeah,
I just talked about confidence. So, what's his name, Kyle?
Kyle, and we appreciate Kyle listening. But
yeah, absolutely.
Come on,
But
Kyle.
I'm not going to lie to you, Kyle. Like, I'm not. And you do have rah-rah people on radio shows and all that, this and the other. I think we are a show of reality. And, I've been watching sports and covering sports a long time in this town. I haven't seen a team make this much of a fall during a season in my life. And if you think they're playing good football right now, or you think it's a given that they can go beat any team, God bless you. I'm just giving you my reality that I don't have that feeling at all.
Now, and I do believe they're going to win the game, but I don't believe it's because I have great confidence in the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that they're going to win the game. But when you say that you don't think they're going to win the game and you bring up the fact that they have been struggling,
it's hard to argue,
I
right?
can't argue with it, man. They lost to the Cardinals and the Giants. I mean, for people that think it's like a hot take, just know, like, if you think what we're saying is stupid, we're saying it from the heart.
Yeah, man.
We actually believe what we're saying.
We're owning it.
Now, it might turn into stupidity, and Lord only knows I've had plenty of those when it comes to football takes. But, we're not doing hot take radio. We truly believe what we're saying.
And we're backing it up with what we're talking about.
It's hard to argue when you watch what the Eagles have been, and it's gotten worse each week. They're 1-4 in their last 5 games. You can make a case that they
1-5.
1-5 in their last 6. You could make a case that they should be 0-6 because I think that if Tyrod Taylor starts that whole game against the first Giants game, they lose. And it's gotten progressively worse as the team has told you, no, we're going to fix it. We're going to get better. It hasn't gotten better. It's legitimately gotten worse.
Hey, hopefully Kyle's listening tomorrow because I bet he'd love to be in Tampa Monday night, right? He's optimistic. He doesn't like gloom and doom. So tomorrow, 6:30 a.m., 7:30, 8:30, 9:30. We will qualify 4 contestants at the bottom of each hour, and you'll have a chance to win a trip for 2 to Monday night's game in Tampa. airfare, hotel, VIP tailgate featuring Hollis Thomas's 50th birthday party. And check out PhillySportsTrips.com to reserve your spot either in the tailgate-only package, which features Hollis and his 50th birthday celebration, or you can add on hotel and game tickets, too. They've got it covered for you at Philly Sports Trips. So try to make Kyle feel a little better here, okay? I went yesterday and just looked at the numbers, and the Eagles' win over the Buccaneers was the, I think, second best win of the season. Miami win being the best, second best being this Buccaneers win. Best road win of the season. And what it really was made up of, which is pretty amazing, DeAndre Swift, 130 yards for DeAndre Swift on 16 carries. That was an amazing night for him, averaging 8 yards a carry, 8.1 yards a carry. It was also an amazing night for A.J. Brown, who said DeAndre Swift got 130 yards. I'm going to get 131. A.J. Brown, no touchdowns, but 9 catches for 131 yards, averaging 14.6 yards a reception. Dallas Goedert had a great night. 5 catches for 41 yards. That's fantastic. Move the chains, keep it moving. Devontae Smith, a little bit of an off night, but 4 catches for 28 yards. So, you have that going for you there. Jalen Hurts, 23 of 37, not crazy. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, sacked 6 times. Take a note of that. He was sacked 6 times. So the offensive line did some really good things, but Jalen had some problems avoiding the sacks, or they had trouble protecting for him. But the key to victory was the most staggering number of all. First of all, they ran the ball 40 times for 201 yards. But the time of possession, 38 minutes and 55 seconds. They controlled the ball for 2/3 of the game. The Buccaneers had the ball for 21 minutes and 5 seconds. That's why you won the game. Ball control, running the ball 40 times, and you had the time of possession. That's why you won. And, Bob, these are things that the Eagles have not been doing for 2 months, almost 2.5 months, winning that time of possession battle, which they were winning, and that's what they did last year. It was incredible. I mean, that's an incredible performance for anybody.
Yeah, and it's a little disheartening when you see how poorly the defense is playing for the Eagles, that the offense hasn't been trying to pick them up in a way of which you're talking. Run the football, time of possession, keep the ball in your hands, get the defense off the field for a little while, because they can't stop anybody right now. I mean, teams are a hot knife through butter against this Eagles defense right now. So they're on the field for a lot of 10, 12-play drives, 75 yards, 6, 7, 8 minutes. That's a lot. And then they come off the field and you watch your offense go, run, pass, out, punt, get back on the field again, defense. It's got to go hand in hand. And, one of the ways that you can negate the poor showing of your defense is to hold on to the ball offensively. And you have an offensive line that is good at run blocking. You have a really good running back in DeAndre Swift.
Here it is.
I would go to that. And I don't care if you got to go back and watch the Baldinger stuff where he highlights the Tampa Bay game from week 3. Go back and watch how that offensive line just dominated in the run game. It was fun to watch, and you need that again. And I hope to God at some point this week, Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson took that offensive line and the whole offense in and said, "Let's watch how you dominated this game."
Conspiracy theory, Pat, that I've got for you to run by you.
Love conspiracy theories to run by me.
The Eagles thought that they were going to finish in the 5 seed, right? I mean, pretty much. The Eagles believed they were going to be the 5 seed. They didn't go into the game on Sunday thinking Dallas was going to lose to Washington. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why they sat DeAndre Swift.
Oh, I think
they're going to break the wheels off him on Monday night.
I think that they sat DeAndre Swift because of what you just said, but also I think the turf at MetLife played a large part of it.
Okay.
I think anybody that showed up with a slight injury that you might end up having to use quite a bit.
Like Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
where he could have potentially gone.
Yeah, I think Devontae would have went. I think Darius Slay would have went, who announced it. He's back. Like, I think a lot of these guys that were out end up going.
And now you just feed him the rock over and over again on Monday night. You give him, he had 16 carries last game. That would be fine. That'd be fine with me. 16 carries
through 3 quarters. Yeah.
I mean, exactly.
I mean, I want it that much. I'd love to see the run set up the pass. I'd love to see a concentration on running the ball. And then later, as the game goes on, play action that actually works because you've already established that threat of running the ball, as opposed to play action when your offensive linemen are in a stance that lets the defense know you're not running the ball, you're throwing the ball here. Therefore, you're wasting a play action. Trey Thomas pointed it out to me, and others have gone through it. The Eagles aren't fooling anybody with play action when their offensive linemen are standing in positions where the other team knows they're throwing the football.
I love the fact that in my heart of hearts, I'm wondering, are they going to come out Monday night and just say, okay, we know how we turned our season around in 2021. We're bleeding out in 2023. So we're going to revert to form, and we're going to use the best run-blocking offensive line in the NFL, and we're going to go out there and we're going to keep the ball away from Baker Mayfield. And hearing Matt Patricia, and earlier today on when Bob did Speak for Yourself, hearing Matt Patricia, there's a lot of respect for Baker Mayfield. It makes me think that they will want to play that keep away. But for Kyle out there, Birds fan 1992, there's a positive for you. There's a game plan to victory. And one of the ways that people have been beating the Buccaneers is ball control on the ground, running the football. So it's there for you. So if you see a pass-happy offense on Monday night from Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni, that honestly is malpractice. It's coaching malpractice because you already have seen what you can do. And it's obvious that the Eagles' offensive front, though they didn't do a great job in pass blocking, they did an amazing job run blocking against this Tampa Bay front. And by the way, Tampa Bay was not banged up that night. So you've got a team. This was week 3 of the season, and they had their starting unit. So this isn't a team that's been beaten up over 17 games. The war of attrition that goes on all year long. This was a team that was ready to go early in the year, and the Eagles imposed their will.
Things are so bad now, and this is a subject that makes Pat roll his eyes and probably a lot of other people out there also.
Okay.
But when things are going so badly, you have to look at a way to change. You have to. So, Pat, I'll bring it up and roll your eyes first, but I think it's more legitimate today than maybe other times that we talked about it. Should Fletcher Cox go out there, call tails, win the toss, which he calls tails every time, are you taking the ball just so you keep your defense off the field to start the game and you're not down 3-7-0 right off the bat? Or does that still not come into play with you?
No, this is probably the first week I'm actually heavily considering accepting the ball
and I remember
not deferring.
You made a big deal about this before the wild card game in 2021. Remember, we talked about it is if you win the toss, what do you do? Do you defer or do you take the ball? And you were like, you don't give Tom Brady the ball. And what did they do? They gave Tom Brady the ball, and Tom Brady went down, and they were down 7-0.
I mean, I'm normally I'd say 90 to 95% defer. But this is the one time where I'm like, yeah, I don't want to see that defense.
And I understand the people that say, oh, God, what does it matter? You're going to get the ball first in the second half, and it all evens out and all that. I totally understand that. I get it. I'm a nitpicky kind of guy when it comes to stuff like footwork. To me is important in basketball. Like if you're supposed to run to a line before you back cut, get to that line. Don't shortcut it. I'm very particular about that. I don't just blow off a coin toss to start the game, because if Tampa comes out and slices and dices your defense, man, I'm sorry. Shoulders are going to they're going to shrug. Eyebrows are going to droop. Faces are going to get long. Already you're building yourself out of a deficit. I think you could live more off of an offense coming out, okay, maybe not getting points, than you can a defense going out there and giving up points right away.
56-44. I know we're in an analytics era, but here's the most simple analytics at all. Score first. in the modern era of NFL football, the 32-team NFL, since it's been 32 clubs, score first, win 56% of the time. That's simple analytics to me. You can make it complicated. You can go into some complex. Well, we look at this statistic which we created, which tells you that you have to defer. Score first. I think 56-44 is a significant number.
Yeah, and
it's a significant swing.
Analytics, physically, I just think mentally, it is so big for this Eagles team because of the way they're playing right now, how poorly they're playing on both sides of the ball right now. I think mentally it would be devastating if that defense takes the field and just gets carved up by Baker Mayfield and they go down the field. And even if they just get a field goal, but if they show some semblance of a good offense right off of the bat, I just think mentally it puts you back in this place of, oh, my God, we are that team that has lost 5 of 6, and we're not that good right now.
I can imagine Eagles Twitter either way. Eagles social media either way. They get off to the good start, Bob, it's going to create that. Because I'm convinced, and I will say this, if the Eagles go out and put out a really good effort and show out against Tampa Bay, I believe that at least half this fan base will convince themselves that they're going on the road and winning the week after.
Good.
I think you can win it over, and that'd be great. But they have to make that case. So I understand what Kyle's saying. It is a lot of gloom and doom, and that sucks, Kyle. It's not good, but there are reasons for it. They haven't given you any. We could come in here and tell you, yeah, this is why the Eagles are going to win. Based on what? So I tried to give you one right there, based on they have a blueprint for victory. Whether they will follow the blueprint that they already know works is another question. 9 o'clock hour of the John Kincade Show is brought to you by the Bagster. It's a dumpster in a bag. You can get yours today at Home Depot and Lowe's. And for details, go to Bagster.com. Jeff McClain joined Andrew Salchunas middays yesterday, and he had some interesting things to say as you look ahead to this matchup. And one of the things that he pointed to is, and I guess it's part of playing in Philadelphia, it's part of coaching here, but when you're a team with high expectations, sometimes the pressure comes from within.
And of course, in Philadelphia, there is a lot of pressure. This is a football-obsessed town, we know. There's a lot of media. There's a lot of attention, and they hold the Eagles to a high standard. And I think that played a role as well, but more so the internal pressure that these guys put on themselves, and that comes from the highest offices in the building, from Jeffrey Lurie on down. I mean, Jeffrey is not a satisfied person. He can grind. Howie Roseman is the same way. I think that is kind of, in some ways, the culture of a team, and it's not necessarily a bad one, because clearly you don't want players, coaches, whoever it is that may be in the building to kind of rest on the laurels and not be always satisfied. But I think in this case, because maybe the talent wasn't as great as people had thought, and maybe the coaching hasn't been as great, and the quarterback hasn't been great, those expectations weren't realistic.
I like what Jeff was pointing out there, though, is Jeffrey Lurie's not a satisfied person. I think that is a common DNA to highly successful people.
Oh, yeah.
Is that not resting on your laurels and everything like that? But coming off of last year, it's more aggravating. When you're expected, when you are a Super Bowl favorite, when you are an NFC favorite, and you don't deliver, I would think that's for someone like Jeffrey Lurie, it's driving him mad.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I was in a press conference with LeBron James one time. I think it was when the Sixers were playing them in the playoffs, and somebody asked him about, when the competition's not really there, what do you do? And he goes, are you kidding me? I'm my biggest competition. I'm the biggest one that challenges myself, not other people, me. And that's cool. Like, he might have gotten that from Jordan or Kobe rode those tails. But that's what you're talking about. And that's probably what Jeffrey Lurie and these guys that are so successful in the business world, it equates to sports too. They're not satisfied. Once you reach being a millionaire, don't you want to be a billionaire?
Yes.
And once you're worth $1 billion, don't you want to be worth $2 billion? That's what drives those guys in the business world, and probably drives them as owners too. I love to hear that. Absolutely. I like what Jeff said. If you picked up on it, Jeffrey Lurie's grinds.
And for an owner,
that's cool.
That's weird to hear.
It is, because, we all think of owners like sit back, like the cigars and all that stuff. But when Jeff says that as somebody on the beat, that means he sees him around. He knows exactly that this guy's putting in the time. And, yeah, I think you like that as a fan.
Do when you hear that, Pat, that he's a grinder, that this is a guy who, is in Jeffrey Lurie. Does that tell you also, though, that Nick Sirianni may be really like under more scrutiny than maybe another organization would hold him to?
I think you're always under more scrutiny in Philly than most organizations. I mean, I talked about it earlier this week. Andy Reid going to Kansas City and they have that coaches symposium and the media always follows their coaches out there and Andy's kicking back and he's got 3 media members from Kansas City and Chip Kelly had like 15 guys from Philly grilling him.
It's different.
It's got to be like, retiring and going to Florida. It is different. And I think for a lot of places, a lot of them at least, you don't have the scrutiny and the fervor to win like you have in Philly.
I like how Jeff McClain also pointed out in his discussion with Andrew about all the blame's been going on Nick Sirianni. But is that fair?
Everything is in some ways a reflection of the head coach, right? That being said, there's 53 players in that locker room, right? There has to be some accountability in terms of each individual doing what they need to do and being professional. And obviously it all reflects on the coach and Nick has to sit up there and answer for everything that happens in terms of between the lines. There's more to it than just Nick. There's Howie Roseman, who's not only, built the roster, but has a vast influence, honestly, over how the team is run in season.
I think that's a big part that hasn't been talked about enough. I think Howie's gotten a little bit of a pass, and I think Jalen Hurts has gotten a little bit of a pass. I really do. I think that there's so much discussion of Brian Johnson that he gets, that Jalen has gotten in a regression year has gotten a little bit of a pass. He's never talked about first.
Yeah, the Howie thing, I brought this up on pregame last week. A general manager discussion on a season is for the offseason to me. Like, I don't need – we were all okay with the roster kind of going into this season.
I think we were real happy with a lot of it, right?
Well, the offense we were. Right. We questioned the linebackers. We questioned the secondary, and we did. I mean, we said we can't overlook those bad points that they did not address. You had hopes and prayers there in the Nakobe Deans and the Reed Blankenship and on. It hasn't really turned into fruition. So but the general manager talk to me, that's an off-season thing. In season, has Jalen Hurts kind of gotten a pass this year? Probably.
I think Brian Johnson takes all the blame, and I should look in the mirror because I'm a guy who definitely is not in the Brian Johnson camp. And maybe there are times where Brian Johnson was taking the bullet verbally when it should have been more talking about what is Jalen Hurts not delivering that he's supposed to.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, why is Jalen Hurts not close to being the quarterback that he was last year? And if it's strictly because of coaching, well, then that's really damning on his talent. That's saying that he can only do it if the coaching is coaching up his talent. But he just did things physically last year that he's not doing this year. And is that coaching? I don't know. You didn't see him miss guys running crossing routes, on 3rd and 6 last year an awful lot. Those were converted an awful lot of times. This year we're seeing a lot of the all-22 where he is missing guys more and more. So they probably go hand in hand, but you're probably right that Hurts isn't getting as much criticism as he deserves.
And I blame myself for part of that.
We all blame you.
Well, thank you very much. Is because I really do think that Brian Johnson has been a consistent talking point. And maybe that doesn't hold Jalen enough responsible. Now, if the Eagles were to lose on Monday night, Jeff McClain talked about what he thinks could happen.
I think that's right now one of the main questions that I'm trying to get answered. Obviously, we won't know until that Monday night game. If they lose or how they lose, it could affect how Jeffrey looks at Nick Sirianni and whether he wants to bring him back.
That's incredible to me that we're going into a game a year, not even a calendar year off the Super Bowl. And going into the game, we're wondering, is the coach coaching for his job?
Yeah. I was thinking about this, too, because of the lack of teams that have gone to a Super Bowl and lost one year and then gone back to the Super Bowl, or even had the success that the Eagles had at 10-1. This year, it was incomparable, right? Other teams had not do that. I was wondering, what if it was just a whole bad year? What if you went to the Super Bowl last year, you came out this year and you started 5-5, and you won a couple games here and there, and you finished 11-6, and it was just like not a good year, and you lose by? Is it a throw-off year more so than starting 10-1 and then falling off a cliff?
I think.
Like, is it all right, every coach is allowed to have a bad year. Nick Sirianni, we're not questioning whether he's coming back. They had a bad year this year. No big deal. You go into next year. Or is it the way that it happened?
If they lost 6 games and lost 3 in the gauntlet, or 4 in the, like, they went 3-3 in the gauntlet, and then the other losses were spread out, I would feel much better about the season than I feel right now.
Yeah, but
the collapse has been just absolutely horrendous.
It has, and it's if they were playing some type of football where you could be like Kyle and say, come on, we got to look for the positives, and you had some positives to grab onto and say, yeah, they should beat Tampa because they're so much better here and there and the other. They're just not. There's not one. There isn't a place. There isn't a, you put it on the running game. Okay, I would love to see that happen. I think that probably has to be your recipe for, serving up a win.
You're not counting on it, though.
On Monday, but you just don't know. And then you go to the like I was going to ask you, but we had to go to break last time. I was going to say, okay, you dialed up an offense right there. I kind of agree with you. I'd like to see them run the ball a lot and set up a pass. What about defensively? What kind of a game plan do you come up with defensively? Because
not look lost.
Yeah.
Like,
I thought, who said, I'm sorry, Pat, who said it earlier that they're going to have to rise just to look mediocre? Was it Timmy? Timmy McManus?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Like, you have to rise, and this defense defines that. You have to up your game so much just to look mediocre right now.
You consistently have guys that during, before the snap is the ball snapped, they are frantically trying to find their spot.
And that's really weird because you see it.
Yeah, I
see it go on.
I thought that Matt Patricia, when he came in as DC, would just try to tinker, and more so, he would take Desai's system and he would really just not implement his, but choose to blitz here and there, and it was more going to be an improvement on the play calling, not in terms of scheme. It seems like Matt Patricia has tried in midseason to instill some kind of scheme, and that is idiotic.
Well, you've heard that players say it, that they don't like the idea. Like, maybe we need to just simplify things. It's a lot because the new defensive coordinator likes to do things a certain way.
Yeah, well, dude, take the pencil away, all right? Take that stupid, ridiculous pencil out of
pencil.
here. Like, he looked like a J.O. yesterday during that press conference with the biggest pencil you've ever seen hanging out of his ear. Put it away, all right, and just keep it simple. Because right now, you've got guys dropping back into coverage that are sack specialists, and you've got the rest of the team completely lost. You've got Josh Sweat, who hasn't had a sack in 2 months.
Oh, my God. The first Dallas game, right?
It was November 7th.
Oh, my gosh.
He last had a sack.
Could you be a PR guy? And a lot of
I could
times,
not.
PR guys will tell the players, coach, something, like, oh, you got something in your hair, or you zip up your jacket, or whatever. Could you imagine being a PR guy and you go to Matt Patricia, he's coming to walk by, he's, Coach, you got something hanging out of your hat.
Well, Coach,
you might want to take that out before you talk to
ridiculous,
the
stupid pencil. I feel like Matt Patricia with that pencil is trying to look smart.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
Pencil at the ready, Pat.
It's not working.
It's the equivalent of George Costanza looking pissed off.
Well, Brian Johnson is up for a head coaching job. Will he get it? Is he being used?
Oh, God, I hope so.
Oh, gosh. Can we do anything to help his candidacy?
I'm trying.
John Kincade Show on 97.5, The Fanatic. I can help you make sure that your home feels better. contestants. So tomorrow, 6:30 a.m., 7:30 a.m., 8:30 a.m., 9:30 a.m. Tony points out, John, you're qualifying 4 contestants to win the trip down to see the Eagles. He said that's going to remind Bob too much of being called on to come on down, like on The Price is Right, having 4 contestants. But you're all right. Tony remembers your hatred of The Price is Right.
Yeah, it was horrible. I don't like this show. I don't like the memories of the show being on my TV when I was a kid.
Is it because you were sick? You didn't like being sick?
I was home from school. I hated being home from school. All my friends were at school. Probably had practice that afternoon that you weren't allowed to go to if you were home, sick from school.
Did your mom and dad let you stay home a lot? We did. We were not allowed to stay home a lot.
Oh, I didn't stay home a lot. I only
we were
stayed
not
home if I
allowed
was sick. Yeah.
to do that too much. If you weren't vomiting, Betty was pushing you on the bus. So, hey, be sure to be listening tomorrow morning. 4 qualifiers, 6:30 a.m., 7:30 a.m., 8:30 a.m., 9:30 a.m. You'll find out how to qualify tomorrow morning. And then those 4 qualifiers will face off in a game show that will decide who gets the Philly Sports Trips package, which includes a round-trip airfare for 2, hotel, and the VIP tailgate party featuring Hollis Thomas's 50th birthday. It's all coming together. If you want to check out PhillySportsTrips.com, too, you're already going down to the game. You can add on the tailgate-only package. You can add on the hotel or game tickets and everything. They'll help you out tomorrow. See, Bob, you like the Price is Right music, though. You're bopping your head a little bit.
You're bopping a little bit.
You're
Bob.
bopping a little bit there.
Your Bobby bops a lot.
I wasn't really paying attention. I guess I was bopping because I was actually looking at the box score of the Eagles-Dolphins game for some reason.
Which I thought was the best win of the year.
Yeah, that's why I was looking it over, actually. Do you know in that game, they threw the ball, the Philadelphia Eagles did, 31 times and ran it 34?
Perfect balance.
Yeah, but they only averaged 3 yards a carry, but they still ran it 34 times. Isn't that wild? It was a fun game. It's like, you look at these games and box scores of it's almost like years gone past. A.J. Brown, 10 catches, 137 yards and a touchdown. Goddard with a touchdown. Just like.
Well, it's when he was it's when A.J. was on a rampage, too.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. The times of your life.
Wow.
Hey, there are so many new head coaching opportunities. I'm still personally hoping that Brian Johnson would get one of them because then it could make the decision easy for the Eagles to make a change at offensive coordinator. Do you think Howie already has his plan in place if he moves on from Brian Johnson or Nick Sirianni? And I know, Pat, you were very passionate like I was yesterday. Can we influence the folks in Charlotte?
I'm trying my hardest.
To make a move.
I tweeted the Patriots today. Let them know that there's a great offensive mind out there that can really take their organization to the next level.
Did they answer you or not? They're ignoring
in due
you
time.
at the moment?
I'm sure in due time.
Okay.
They're dealing with a couple of other tweets right now, a little bit of reaction, I'm sure, but I'm just trying to help out. I look at myself as an NFL advisor for these organizations.
That's not bad, yeah.
That are finally looking to win a little bit. Patriots need to get back on track. Carolina's looking to get anything going, and Brian Johnson can take them to that level. Look, in all seriousness, I was shocked that he got an interview yesterday. I thought the interviews weren't going to happen.
You know
this
what I'm
season.
wondering, though?
Because of the stretch.
I'm wondering if he's being used like some organizations use candidates just to
Are you
fulfill.
talking like Rooney Rule?
Yes.
Okay.
Just because I can't think that around the NFL right now anybody's saying, man, that Brian Johnson, we got to get our hands on him. Look at that Eagles offense.
Well, I guess it'll tell you a lot if he gets another interview.
Well, he hasn't interviewed yet. I think they've requested the interview.
Yeah,
right?
I would have thought he would have gotten an interview. Like if it was the Rooney Rule situation, if I'm an organization, I'm just interviewing somebody within. If I'm just trying to get that out of the way. And I'm sure that they do have a candidate.
I think you have to have one external candidate, too.
Oh, do you?
I think.
Well, then I'll shut my mic off.
I may be mistaken on that. But I can't imagine right now that Brian Johnson around NFL circles, people are saying, wow, did you see that Eagles offense? Man, is that sharp. That's innovative. It's different.
Well,
nope.
People that are hiring are probably more looking at numbers, and the numbers aren't far off from what they were last year. We are deeper inside. We have the eye test going saying, ugh, this doesn't look good, especially over these last 6 games or so. But he was that. Everybody said, and us included, that if he has a good year here, he's probably going to be gone. He, to us, hasn't had a great year here, but to others, maybe they think he's been fine. And he could be really impressive in an interview skill. He could come out as like, wow, this guy, he might be better off handling everything as opposed to just handling the offense.
Yeah, I mean, think about some coaches that have gotten hired in the past. Like Josh McDaniels, not only convinced, he convinced somebody to take him once. Then he convinced somebody to take him twice. He ended up going back to New England. Like, basically, hey, I got the job. No, actually, on second thought, I don't want to go to you. And then he convinced an organization to take him a third time. He was never good.
Pat, I'm telling you right now. Well, he was very good as an offensive coordinator.
But in terms of being a head coach,
I got you.
You're not good as a head coach. Every player that played for him in Denver, I mean, basically just says the guy was very, very, very full of himself. He tried to make it in New England. And not only that, like, they were kind of spying on teams. And after he got caught, the team went downhill quick. And then after the stunt he pulled with Indianapolis, I can't believe he hasn't been blackballed. He got it. Basically 3 head coaching jobs, and he's horrible.
But I'm warning you, Pat. I have a weird feeling that if the Eagles move on from Brian Johnson, that Josh McDaniels may end up being the guy. I really do.
Why?
Because they've talked to him. The Eagles organization has talked to him 3 times before.
He'll follow Daddy Bill anywhere he goes.
So you believe that's where he'll just go?
Oh, I mean,
he's made a living for him.
He's like every bad C-list action movie where there's like the snot-nosed kid, that's like 28 and he's just spending daddy's money on like drugs and hookers, and he runs back at the first sign of danger. Dad, can you bail me out? That's Joshy, as I'll call him. All these guys, they just run back to Daddy Bill.
Well, I mean, it's been his MO. I do believe the Eagles will. I will tell you right now, I would almost guarantee they'll talk to him for the offense coordinator position. They've sniffed around him too many times that it just is like,
yeah. But if you do it so many times and it doesn't happen, do you cross off the list? At some point you have to say, all right, I've done that test drive 3 times. Forget it. Boom. And I'm
not buying the Daewoo.
Yeah. If they do move on from coordinators, head coach, I think they have to make a splash. I don't think it can be another, oh, who's this guy that they're bringing in? Wow, they're trying it again. No, I think you got to make a splash. And I think everywhere. Like offensive coordinator, to me, it'd be Eric Bieniemy or bust.
I think Eric Bieniemy would set this town on freaking fire.
I think it would.
It would.
And if it's a case where you have to hire him as the head coach in order to get him, and maybe it wasn't your game plan originally, and you can bring in a defensive coordinator that you're really solid with and is a proven guy, well, then maybe that's the route you go. But I don't think you can go to the land of unknowns if you wind up, losing this game to Tampa Bay, not playing well, things are bad, and you decide to get rid of this coaching staff. I think you have to make a splash. It can't be another, oh, we're going to try this again.
This no-name brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it absolutely has to be a name recognition guy. Eric Bieniemy, I think, would be a home run, but I do wonder, he's got to be getting head coaching interest now. Like, he has to be.
Pat, you know what, though? His name, I don't believe, has come up for the request for Charlotte.
Yeah, it's early.
For the Panthers.
But how?
Because maybe as far as if you're talking about head coach, that there's something that's lacking there.
There's got to be, because I mean, look, the Washington offense wasn't this juggernaut last year, but I think the big feather in his cap was, and if I'm him, I'm going in an interview going, yeah,
Sam Howell.
Look what happened when I left Kansas City.
Yes.
Kansas City had to get carried by their defense.
Look what he did with Sam Howell, though.
Yeah, he turned Sam Howell into a competent NFL quarterback.
I absolutely. Now, the weird thing is I would love to see if Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator, I think it'd be a home run. I think this town would erupt in joy. I don't want him as head coach, though. I would like something different at head coach.
Maybe it's the only way you get him.
Could be, and I'd have to consider it if it came out of that. I want Nick Sirianni. I really do want to see Nick Sirianni back. If I had my choice, Nick Sirianni back with one of his coordinators being a veteran guy who has been a head coach before. That would be my ideal scenario. Eagles win a playoff game Monday night, which I do believe they're going to win. They win a playoff game Monday night, and they have a strong showing in the divisional playoff game. They don't get blown out. They don't embarrass themselves. And then Nick Sirianni says, you know what? We're going to go with some different coordinators. We're going to revamp the offense and the defense. And one of those guys has NFL head coaching experience.
You think Nick Sirianni wants that? That's just a guy laying in wait.
Well, I don't. It depends on the guy.
If he has, well, you know what many believe, I don't. But if he has a big say in the coordinators and who they're picking, I don't think he's picking a guy that's been a head coach in the league where you say, yeah, you come on in, because if things go bad for 4 or 5 games, I'll step aside and you're going to be the head coach. We all know that.
Well, the one thing I don't think would happen, Bob, is let's say he hired, and I know you're not high on it. Let's say he hired a guy, they went out and got a guy like Ron Rivera to be DC. I'd be okay with that, and more than okay with that. And I also think that it would just be somebody for Nick Sirianni, for the organization to say, you obviously need somebody to lean on. When things were under duress this year, you didn't handle them well, and things spiraled further out of control. So let's see if we can get you somebody in here who could help you with that. And but because my first choice would be Sirianni comes back. That is, I just think it would be, I think we would set into a situation where if a new coach comes in here, I think some of the veterans would depart. More of the veterans would depart. And then you'd be on with a sort of a well, I guess it would be called a remodel. With the talent you got, it would be a remodeling. It wouldn't be a rebuilding.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what we want. It matters what we think the Eagles will do.
Right.
So, what do you think the Eagles will do should they go back down to Tampa and have another crap game?
If they have another crap game, I have a real feeling they will make a coaching change. I do. But my choice would be that doesn't happen. Just because I think it would just be an absolute. First of all, things would look like they were in disarray in the building. So maybe you don't have a guy. Maybe you're not getting pick of the litter for someone to come in here and take the job. And do they go and just hire another no name? I can't
imagine they do that.
I can imagine they do that.
That would be brass balls.
Well, that's
really
what they
would
do.
be. Yeah.
They hire, they trust their process. And it's worked for them. I mean, hiring no names has worked for them better than hiring name guys.
I cringe every time I hear that term.
Not that they've hired a lot of name guys, but Ray Rhodes and Chip Kelly were like the two big ones.
Or you do something that nobody else has done. And what is that? Nobody's hired Eric Bieniemy to be a head coach for some reason. Maybe you go out and do that. Although well known, you're hiring someone that other teams have said, nah, no thanks.
And doesn't want to be a GM, Bob.
Yeah.
Like understands the power structure. He understands it.
It's interesting. I don't know what they're going to do. It's all food for thought. And, if the Eagles go out and win a 35-14 game, it's all for nothing. They're not going to make a coaching change after that, I wouldn't think.
Right, not a head coaching change. No. If there's a win on Monday night, that's off the table. It has to be. And I really do hope it's off the table. I'd like to see Nick at one more time. And maybe
if he wins on Monday, he gets one more year.
Absolutely. Hey, Bob, something bothered you at the end of regulation last night of the Flyers game? What were you aggravated with? They won. They won last night. It was great. You heard it here on the Fanatic.
It's not just the Flyers. It's sports in general. And then the thing that bothers me the most, and I can't stand to see it in professional athletes, and it's because I wasn't the best athlete, but I got by being smart, kind of knowing how to play the game or whatever. Last night, 10 seconds to go with the Flyers, tie game 2-2. And they iced the puck for no reason. I almost said something out loud.
Is it out of panic?
No.
No? I mean, I'm trying to remember the sequence.
Going for a play.
Oh, yes.
It wasn't Sanheim. I can't remember who it was, and I don't know if Haley picked up on it while she was there. But it was just a dumb play. And you're trying to hit a home run with 10 seconds to go, and it turns into an icing, and now you're giving up a face-off in your own end.
Well,
I'm just like, what? In what world?
What world? Connor Thomas?
Oh, Connor. That's right. I couldn't remember who it was. But I literally was, I can't stand stupidity.
Sucked more.
Yeah. And that seemed to me, I was hoping they would show Tortorella on the bench to see what his reaction was, because I didn't see that it was a planned play. You could tell it was an attempt at a home run, and the way the shoulders of I wish I would have remembered who did it.
Well, the Flyers' breakouts out of their own zone, Pat, very aggressive. I mean, they're aggressive getting out of their own zone.
They should be.
They do, and they like that. It's different than what you saw last year.
Yeah,
some of the veteran talent being back, right? Helps with that a little bit.
I think a lot. I think they had a lot of addition by subtraction on that blue line.
I'll tell you what, Drysdale can skate.
He can.
He can skate.
How about the
space.
power play too?
Yeah, like in space, limited space, he can skate. Get from A to B quickly.
That's what got him drafted.
Yeah,
his skating ability and his offensive mind.
Yeah,
his vision.
So, but yeah, that just it was that last night with the Sixers. You had a 3-on-1, and you're trying to throw a fancy pass ahead that goes out of bounds, and you miss a basket there in a real tight game. I understand taking chances. And it's a fine line between aggressive and all that, but God, when you play stupid, it just drives me insane.
Is there something though about that? Like last night, when I see that Sixers game, to me, it's almost like you're playing Atlanta, and you started to play their game instead of your own.
In what way?
The game was sloppy. Like, to me, the game last night was it was fast paced. It was a complete lack of defense. It was like one of those defense optional nights. Now, it's weird because I didn't know what you were going to say, but one of the things I love watching the Flyers is the Flyers this year are playing really good defense. I hate the nights in the NBA where it's like defense optional, even though the Indiana Pacers are truly one of the most interesting stories to me this year, watching their style of play. They're almost like they could have been playing in the early 80s, the way that they just want to run up and down the floor and create mayhem out there. I don't like the defense optional nights. There's no reason you should give up 130 points to the Hawks. And that's just, to me, they're not that talented.
It was overtime, but
yes, exactly.
You're missing Embiid, so that's what it starts with. What do? Do you try to go outscore this other team? Do you try to play a defensive game? Nick Nurse implemented, as I said before, DeAnthony Melton into the starting lineup after he had started Kelly Oubre. I do think that was a total move just because Embiid wasn't there, because Melton is a good defender. Right? Yeah. And, he wound up playing Oubre 32 minutes off the bench. I think once Embiid gets back, you're going to see a starting lineup that includes Embiid, Batum, and Oubre. I think Melton's going to be a guy coming off the bench when they're fully healthy. But defensively, yeah, you're missing your best guy. They tried to go zone a couple of times, and you're missing Joel Embiid. And you try to go zone, and if you mess up, there's nobody in the middle to pick it up.
And I guess they're thinking, as you pointed out, volume shooter with Trae Young, that he's going to chuck it anyway. But that's the only way you can beat is just shooting over it, right? I mean,
well, either
that's
that
the
or
best way
dribble
to do
penetration. Also, you get when guys are playing zone, you want to try to get two defenders to cover one, and then you're looking for your pass out to the open guy who dribble penetrates better than Trae Young in this league, and leaves a defender
fearlessly too, by the way.
Yeah, leaves a defender. I don't know whether to cover him because he's going to shoot that floater or back off of him because he's going to, throw up that little alley-oop. So, it wasn't a great defensive performance last night by the Sixers.
Pat, you liked it though in the regards of you like the way that Nick Nurse is approaching games when Joel Embiid is not in. Yeah. That he's empty in the bench. He's trying everybody.
Yeah, I really like the fact that he looks at the game. I feel like the same way a lot of Sixers fans probably look at a game when you find out Joel Embiid's out. All right, probably losing this one. Now, is that the right mindset to have for a coach? Probably not, right? You want to go in and think that you have a chance. But the reality is what the reality is. And in games where Joel Embiid is out, it's going to be tough sledding. And he looks at it as an opportunity. Doc Rivers looked at it like, no, we're going to act like he's still there and we're going to win this game. Nick Nurse empties the bench, and everybody, look, Daniel House, who they're stuck with, Furkan Korkmaz, who they're stuck with, they didn't get any playing time. But other than that, everybody got playing time, and only KJ Martin was under 10 minutes. So he clearly is trying to evaluate these guys and give himself the option that when the trade deadline comes around, he has a good understanding of who he wants to keep and who he doesn't. So I look at every game that Joel Embiid's out as
Opportunity,
an
I guess,
opportunity
right?
to learn about who your team is. And it's not just that; it's also the adversity, right? I mean, you secretly you're sitting there going, "We're probably going to lose," but then you go in the locker room and you kind of try to get your team up. Of all right, you guys gonna just sit here and pout because Joel's not out, or you gonna go and rise to the occasion. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. I think if Tyrese Maxey doesn't foul out, they probably win that game, but. He does, but you ended up getting a good look at some of these guys that normally they might get 3-4 minutes. They were getting 11, 12, 14 minutes last night, which I think is a good thing ultimately for this team.
It is coming trade deadline. I think Nick Nurse might have a really good idea who his top 9 are right now, and I do think that there's 2 competitions, I think. One is, does he start Oubre or does he start DeAnthony Melton? And I still think, and I don't have any reason that nobody's told me this, but I think he's going to take a look at some point at Mo Bamba and see if he's the backup to Joel instead of Paul Reed.
It does kind of look like he goes through stretches of, okay, I'll play this guy a little bit more just to see what I got. Okay, figured that out. Let me play this guy a little bit more, figure out what he can give me. Okay, I figured that out. Play this guy. Like, that's the way he probably should approach the regular season.
You realize, though, what Bob just said subtly? And, Bob, I know you meant to say it, but it really is a subtle difference. I think he settled on his top 9.
Yeah.
Could you give me a top 9, Pat, for when Doc Rivers was the coach?
No.
I mean, seriously, you just went very casually. Yeah, I think he's pretty much settled on his top 9 now.
Well,
it's a philosophy change.
Yeah,
in this organization.
When we asked him a couple of weeks ago in Nick Nurse about, are you still auditioning your sub players? And he said, yes, but I'm close. I thought it meant I'm close to I know who they are. I'm close to figuring out exactly how I'm using them.
You think it's...
And I think the biggest part of it was the Oubre, DeAnthony Melton thing. Who am I going to start there once everybody's healthy? And I think he's going to go with Kelly Oubre. And then now I'm just projecting here, and I'm wondering if maybe he does that competition with, all right, let me give Bamba a little more time and see if he gives me something a little more than Paul Reed in those 10 to 12 minutes.
Is it wrong for me to want him to have this process done before, like at the All-Star break? The week after the Super Bowl, All-Star break, after that, from that point on, let's start ramping up towards, you're going to have 25 games in the playoffs, right?
I think you go to the All-Star break figuring out your top 9, and then after the All-Star break, you probably pare it down to maybe even 8 with a specialist, because that's what you're going to do in the playoffs. Who is that specialist? Is it maybe a Robert Covington for defensive there's different things, but I think after the All-Star break is when you really start settling into your air quotes playoff rotation.
I'm all in on Nick Nurse, so hopefully he continues to entertain us, and we will have the games right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Okay, tomorrow, it is a football Friday because 5 games will be played before we reconvene on Monday, where the most important game. The one thing the Eagles will know on Monday is they'll know where they're going when they win. See that? I'm trying to put a little positivity on it when they win.
Yeah, that was cute.
Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partners, Paul B. Moyer and Sons, and make a donation today to the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it at 975thefanatic.com/AACR because cancer research saves lives. Andrew Salchunas will join you next. He'll carry you through the midday, and you don't want to miss a minute of that. And then that'll roll you right into the best show ever. Make sure you are staying all day long, hitting up that app, being with us. And tomorrow, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 4 different contestants will be chosen for a chance to compete to win a trip with the Birds with Philly Sports Trips. Have a great Thursday, everybody.